criteria that you're going to send out, you're going to say our community is not happy with more than 10, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We do not want mega big buildings in our suburb.
I've answered two of your questions, and I want to give other people who are in the audience a chance to ask the question. So thanks for your questions.
Okay, thanks.
Question over here, sir.
So, my name is Varun, and I'm in the council area in Broadview. So, as a part of the PLP Monster project, how many exhibit trees are being removed? Can you say that on the record?
Say that again, sorry.
How many trees? So I've got two questions. I'll be very quick to the first one. So, how many trees are being removed? If you can say that on the record as a part of this Monster project.
Did you say Monster project?
Yeah.
So there's been no decisions on the number of trees that will be removed. What the council commits to is that if it removes one tree, it'll plant 3 trees in its place. And so if there are 10 trees removed, there'll be 30 trees planted, but it's too early to tell which trees may need to be removed. It's almost certain that some trees will need to be removed, but we don't have a fixed and firm on that, and we'll only know that when we get to future stages, if we get to future stages, and understand what proposals may be put forward by developers, and then we'll look at the public realm, see what impacts there are on the public realm, and then for every tree that's removed, 3 will be replanted, and our intention would be to plant mature trees, and we know that that doesn't mean a like for like immediately, but our intention would be not to plant 6-month-old or 1-year-old trees. We would look to plant trees that were as mature as you can grow in a nursery, and so to get them underway and get as mature trees as possible. So
it's quite unfortunate that there are other developments, smaller scale developments, where council treats those developers with the tree removal application, etc., very, very severely. Or when it comes to your project, you just simply saying you remove 1 and you plant 3. Is that a generalized approach? Like, you apply a rule to the other developers very separately when it comes to tree. So when it's on your own project, you treat it very, very differently. I find it in itself it's quite unethical. That you for your project you're quite happy to say I'll remove 1 and I'll maturely
So can I just want to clarify your question. So your question is with another development sorry, can I just clarify? Sure. With another development planned to be undertaken by a private developer on a private block of land, can we enforce a policy that says if you remove a tree on that block of land through the process of the development and the building, can we enforce a policy that says you must replant 3? Is that what your question is?
My question is that you actually say, no, you can't remove that tree. That tree is significant. That tree is regulated tree. You cannot do that, therefore you can't do the development. But for your project, you're saying I'll just remove trees and I'll plant 3. Maybe I'll plant 3 mature trees. But council a lot of times rejects projects because there are trees involved.
Can you clarify that, CEO, that we reject projects because of trees involved?
So, through you, Mr. Mayor, there is a process that does enable the potential of even significant regulated trees, but it is difficult. Council's not immune or somehow exempt from that process. Council's going to have to go through the process of reviewing each one of those trees and going through a development application process just like any private development.
I have faced myself within the council. The council has not supported it. And when you say it's process, it's just a long-winded answer. I'll come to my second question. I think I got the answer, what you were sort of saying, but I'm not satisfied with it. I'll say the second question. The lady before me mentioned around the developer, etc. Just a minute ago, you mentioned that the developer will decide, nothing has been confirmed, etc. Earlier question, you also mentioned the same, that nothing has been decided, etc. Yet constantly we've been talking about Master Plan Acts. We're already going ahead with spending a lot of money on the EOI process, etc. And we are also going to appoint a developer. So how can we one side say nothing's been decided, yet we keep pushing ahead with this whole process? We're appointing all these developers, we're spending thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to appoint certain people. I'm sure you have a scope that you go out as any project would run. You cannot just run on a vague basic line project, but you constantly keep saying nothing has been confirmed, nothing has been confirmed. Same thing with the tree. The foot line, the footprint, etc. has been all confirmed from your end, yet you keep saying nothing has been confirmed. I'd like to know what it is. You're going for a UI, you're getting all these inputs, you potentially want to select someone before the election, comes up, etc., locks everything in. Yet, the person before me asked, we keep saying nothing has been confirmed. So what is it? What is it right? Is it everything confirmed or nothing has been confirmed? You can't really sort of move the process ahead then.
I'm only going to answer this question. I'll only answer this question one more time tonight, and the answer is that no final decisions have been made. There's an expression.
Mr. Mayor,
sorry, you've asked your question. Please give me the courtesy.
I would like to sort of clarify a little bit. That's why
you've asked me the question very clearly. I understand the question, and you're interrupting me.
No, you used your word, which I wanted to clarify.
Okay, I'm going to give you one more chance just to be quiet so I can answer your question. Otherwise, I'm going to ask you to step down from the table. Okay?
He's treating you how you treat us.
Okay, I will ask you to leave the council chambers if you keep interrupting, sir, and I can do that. Is that clear? Is that clear? Okay, so there's no decision being made. We've gone out with a request for expressions of interest from developers, and if we receive approval from the land revocation request and the code amendment request, we can then go out to a request for pricing where people who responded to the EOI process and were shortlisted will be given the opportunity to put forward their vision for that precinct from a development point of view. At that point in time, that will come to the chamber. Now, jump in if I'm missing anything here. That will come to the chamber through the RFP process. Council has an advantage over other developments being undertaken by private developers because we own the land. So we essentially have a strong say in what goes out as the criteria through the RFP, and we have a strong say behind what, if anything, gets approved to go for assessment by the state assessment panel. So until land revocation, code amendment have been approved, until the RFP goes out and we get responses, and until we vote on moving forward with one of those responses, no decision has been made to do anything. There's been master plans. I'm not going to let you ask another question because we've already gone well over. I'm fine. I don't need to clarify. Sir,
you haven't given
I've answered your question as you've asked it, so I'll ask you to step down from the table. Thanks.
You have not answered my question.
I'm going to ask you to step down. Thanks, sir. I'll take one more. We've gone over. Actually, I'll take a couple more, but we do have to keep moving on. So I'm going to take two more questions. If they're on a similar topic that we've already discussed, then I might not take that question. If it's something different, then happy to answer that. So I've got these two people at the front here, the gentleman standing up and the lady as well, in either order you'd like. That's fine. You can sit down if you like.
Thank you. My name is Lisa and I live in Millsworth, Prospect area, and first I've heard about this going on not too far down the road from me was that fly up in the little box. And when I discussed it with my neighbours, nobody knew that it was going on, and also there was a section of people that hadn't heard of any of this building that was going on, especially 12 stories. So my question is, there are so many other suburbs around that have improved ovals and things like that, and they've managed to do that without having 12 stories. They've done it in a reasonable fashion. With all the dense living here, it's many more council rates that you were getting, and I recall saying that our rates were going to go down because of all this elevated living increases in council rates. So I'm just wondering, why do we have to go to developers? Is there not a way that it can be managed with all the increases? And obviously houses being in businesses have a much higher payment in council rates as well. A lower scale development. The major thing, as you probably realise, is the 12 stories. I mean, surely there is some way that 12 stories can be reduced, taking all that into consideration, because I believe that the most problematic thing is the height. Yep. And the $60 million that you think you need to put into it.
So, thanks for the question. Again, I'll invite the CEO to jump in if I miss something or if he can explain something better than I can. I'm on the record as saying that I would like us to go as low as possible to generate the funds that we need to do the work the community's asked us to do. From the perspective of cost, we've engaged professional services in many aspects of this project because I don't think anybody would want us to go in blinded by our own views on this. Better to get experts to come in and give us their expert views. They're well-regarded quantity surveyor companies, and they've provided the estimates to do the work around the Oval Precinct at around $60 million. So that's not a figure we've come up with, it's a figure that's been come up with by professional people in that space. I think the real fact of the matter is that council has underinvested over many years in that whole precinct, and when you do that, it's like on a small scale. If you don't service your car, at some point in time it's going to cost you a hell of a lot to get it up to standard, and we should have been investing in various aspects of it over the last, to be honest, over the last 30, 40, 50 years. With regards to a large stream of additional revenue generated by apartment dwellings that have been built in Prospect over the last 5 to 10 years, it is true that the revenue that we receive through rates has gone up, and the CEO can, without putting him on the spot, he could probably hazard a guess as to roughly what that might be. But the cost of delivering services expected by the community, by council, have also risen significantly, and a large factor, and again the CEO might be to give a figure to this, there are many, many services that council have to deliver now that used to be delivered by the state government. So cost shifting from state government to local government has meant that we have to provide services. We're not provided with support by the state government to deliver those services. Therefore, we have to fund the delivery of those itself, which chews up a substantial proportion of any gains we might have made through the increased revenue we receive through rates. So it's a complicated process. But I also just want to address something that you first raised at the start with regards to not being aware. So through the consultation process, there's the bare minimum that the council could do, which is essentially putting a sign up at the Oval and an advert in the paper. We've chosen to go far beyond that, including letterboxing the entire suburb twice through that process. If we ever received any reports saying that a street didn't get letterbox, then we followed that up and remediated that, but there was only one example of that from a very small segment. So council has done, I think, as much as humanly possible to bring this to the attention of the community. Over the term of the consultation process, we must have run at least 30 public sessions.
Can I ask you why all of a sudden, recently in the last 4 weeks, have we decided then to put a petition out? Why wasn't that petition put out previously if we were aware of those 4 stories? That's the main reason why you've now got 2,500 signatures saying that they don't want 12 stories. Otherwise, that would have gone way ahead, I'm sure.
Add to that too,
sorry, sir. No, I can't take your question. I'm just addressing this lady's question. So any member of the public has the right to put out a petition at any point in time, and any number of petitions could have been circulated at any point in time. I can't answer that question. However, there was a decision made by whoever circulated the petition to choose the timing they did. But right from the start, anyone could have put out a petition asking people to sign off against whatever the petition might be. So thanks for your questions. I'm just going to take from the gentleman with the T-shirt, the last question. Sorry, no, the gentleman with the T-shirt here got in last.
So Andrew Foreman, I live in Prospect. A question more about the current environment we're in. Obviously we have a war happening globally. We have oil supply shocks in the economy now, which will probably last for six to 12 months, if not several years. We have, I heard today, a shortage of building supplies and materials in certain areas. This seems like the worst possible time to be running the OIA process. So my question to you is, what consideration are we giving to the current economic circumstances, and have council received a paper in relation to that particular topic?
I'll take the second part of it first. I'm going to direct that to the CEO. CEO, have you got an answer for the second part of the question?
Which was the, sorry, I
received
consideration.
Received a paper.
Have we received a paper?
So the question was what consideration have we given to the current circumstances, and also have councillors received a paper in relation to these supply shocks and issues?
I know I haven't, but CEO, maybe something's been circulated to administration.
No, obviously, the expression of interest was published to the community before the memorandum began. So there's been, right now, a process we're running through with suppliers. I do accept the fact that that will probably become a factor at the RFP stage. The degree to which it does and the degree to which that influences council's decision will obviously be considered at that time. And one more thing I would note, Mr Mayor, from you, is that there is a robust prudential review process that's required under local government legislation for a development of this size. That will have to take account of current circumstances in terms of the construction market and also the broader world political and conflict-driven challenges that exist. So, no, it hasn't happened yet. But at the RFP stage it must, and at the prudential review stage, council will get briefed on that, as well as a range of other risks concerning the project. And I would add to it things like the points to Darlington and a range of other potential challenges that are going to cause. Council's going to need to consider whether or not the timing and the bid presented are fair, reasonable, affordable, and appropriate at that time.
Yeah, so I do note that the council has a paper it's considering tonight about deferring decisions until the election, but I would think it's more appropriate to defer the decision because of the current economic environment if you want to get the best outcome in relation to the EOI or later down the track any tender. I think this is not the time to get a good outcome.
Well, again, to reiterate the CEO's point, price is certainly a strong factor in any assessment of submissions put forward through the RFP process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Look, I'm going to call it on question time, but as everyone in the audience knows, and thank you for coming along tonight, the elected members' contact details, including mine, are on the council website, and I'm sure that any elected member is happy to take a call, meet, answer questions via email. I certainly am. So if you've got further questions, then all you need to do is to go to the council website, contact your elected member or myself or multiple elected members, and they will do, as I believe they have, their best to answer your questions if they can be answered. So thank you for coming tonight. Welcome to stay around. There's a number of other items relating to this project on the agenda. But we will move on from public question time to petitions. So item 7 on the agenda, petitions. Item 7.1, there's a petition received from Mr William Curtis regarding the Prospect Lifestyle Precinct. A recommendation on page 5. Do I have a mover, please? Dead heat. Can I try that again? Councillor Dabaki, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Group, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, look, I will second it, and I will speak to it. Actually, I have a question initially, though. What's the largest number of petitions that we've ever received at Prospect in terms of petitions? Do we know that?
I don't know the answer to that question, and I'll direct that to the CEO.
Giving a lot of blank looks, Mr Mayor. We'd have to take that one on notice, unless Mr Adler is running.
Okay, could that be maybe circulated to us soon? I'm just curious because my time here, I've seen lots of petitions presented to us as council. I've never seen one with the 2 at the front of it and 4 figures. So I think this is obviously showing that there was a lot of interest. And so I would be interested just to kind of compare and contrast those other petitions with what we've got tonight. Look, just to really say thank you to the petitioner and, the head petitioner for bringing this to us. I'm sure there might be some debate tonight about the veracity or otherwise of the petition. Irrespective of that, I think it does show a lot of interest in this project. And it's something that I think we as a council, as you'll see from my motion and those tonight, should be aware of when we make decisions. We are making big intergenerational decisions. This petition normally would trigger us to stop and rethink. I don't think it's going to do that. I'll read the tea leaves. I don't think it's going to make us stop and rethink. But normally, when you've got almost 2,500 people saying, hey, we've got some issues about this, we would just trigger a thought about, well, hang on, how do we move forward with this? I have a little bit more to say in my motion on those, but beyond that, I certainly support this motion and thank the head petitioner for bringing this to us tonight.
Any other points that haven't already been made? I'd just like to reiterate, thank you, Will, for going to the effort you've done to carry out that petition. Councillor Backer, if you don't see a need to sum up, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Oh, you will sum up? Okay,
yeah, please. Yeah, so just again, thank you to the petitioner, and certainly again in my time here, I've never seen such community engagement and respectful community engagement. I think the petition doesn't bring forward not to do anything. It's actually saying, well, we'd like to do something, we agree we need to do something, but do it in a certain way. So in any other council in Australia, to have 2,500 people behind this project would attract the kind of state and federal funding that we've been looking for. And to date, we haven't attracted any state or federal funding. So I think, not saying not looking gift horse in the mouth, but this could be a great opportunity to say, well, actually, you know, with the right kind of development, we could attract funding because we've got support of the community for certain kinds of development. So I think it's just worth thinking about that. But yeah, I'm encouraged by the level of community engagement on both sides of the fence, and I'm keenly listening. So yeah, just thank you.
Thank you. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Item 8 on the agenda, deputations. So we have 3 deputations. There is strictly 5 minutes speaking time, and then elected members may ask questions of the deputy. So item 8.1, Elizabeth Crisp, safety in Cassie Street. Lizzie, would you like to? I've got you as 8.1.
That's all right, I don't care.
Oh, on mine it says 8.1. Yeah, it's 8.1. Anyway, let's go. You've got a presentation, I believe, Lizzie?
Yes.
So I'll give you a 1 minute warning when you've got 1 minute left, Lizzie, and it'd be great if you could finish it pretty close to 5 minutes, if that's okay.
Best, but unfortunately there's so many hazards in Cassie Street at the moment. I've spent the whole day trying to prune this down.
Okay.
Alright, so basically, safety in Cassie Street's been an ongoing problem for a number of years, and Council needs to address the significant risks the residents are now continuously being exposed to. We're 1/4 of a kilometre in length. In August 25 we had 8 potholes and lots of road cracking, including around bitumen patching. So here's the photos. Now, in December 2026, there was a new, 2025, there were a new set of potholes. And then in March, another set of potholes, which someone kindly filled in today. I've had over 10 potholes outside my home. So these constant potholes are a danger to cars and pedestrians because people can trip on them when stepping backwards from their cars. So every year now is a bad year for potholes in Cassie Street. Cassie Street now has considerable problems with speeding traffic both up and down the street, and the street is narrow. This is concerning given the amount of infill development in the street and the number of elderly residents and the number of children walking down the street.
We now have a resident who has thrown objects at speeding cars out of frustration, which is very dangerous. Oops. The last traffic survey did pick up the traffic speeding up the street, as presented recently to a council workshop. However, the traffic counters for cars travelling down the street were located next to the shopping centre, where cars have already slowed down to either enter the shopping centre, the fast food shops or the North East Road. Council inaccurately concluded that cars do not speed down Cassie Street, which is poorly informed and wrong. This is where they put the traffic counters. This is where people start braking and slowing down at Rosebery Lane. The 40k signage in the street is poor and non-existent. When people exit the shopping centre, they do not see the 40k sign, which is actually on the Stobie pole, as they are too busy looking out for the traffic, which comes from 4 directions, to avoid being hit by another car. This may be contributing to the speeding. The street trees on the northern side of the road are Chinese elms, and they're huge, but not under power lines. For some reason, councillors decided to plant Chinese elms on the south side of the street under the power lines as replacement trees. These trees are going to have to be managed very carefully, as they are totally unsuitable to be planted under power lines. In October 2025, one of these trees at the northern end of the street caught on fire, I'm told, as a result of friction with the power lines. This is a young Chinese elm likely to create problems such as power failures with branches already up amongst the wires. As you know, my street tree grew through the wire connecting electricity to my home, partially pulled the wire out and electrified my house for 16 hours. This was a shocking experience and must not be repeated. Cassie Street has had no lines marked in the street for between 10 and 15 years. What few lines have been marked have faded, so people are now parking in no parking areas. Cars are now allowed to park right up to driveways, which is very problematic in a narrow street, and the western end of the street does not have the 10-metre yellow lines or a lane division to stop people cutting the corner, which results in many near-miss accidents. There's been a head-on collision here. As the council continues to improve more infill development, streets are being seen as parking lots for businesses. It matters if residents' lives are being put at risk given speeding cars are not addressed, and for some getting out of driveways is incredibly difficult. Difficulties exiting their driveways is dangerous for speeding cars. People at the western end of the street have widened their driveways and have made little difference when cars are parked opposite the driveway and right next to their driveway. I have a record of reporting problems exiting my driveway 20 times since 2019. I have now hit my 5th car while trying to exit my driveway. Any distraction can contribute to an accident, as the exit can be so tight. That is getting very costly and very concerning. Now, this is just a brief example of what's around my driveway, often right up to my driveway because the yellow line's faded. By not addressing driveway problems, the council is leaving residents at considerable risk for years, this time being hit by speeding cars as well as being constantly abused by impatient and irritating drivers. Whoops. This is what we now experience in our street. Very rude. At the eastern end of the street, we often have people who leave their cars on the street for days on end. The car I backed into was there for 4 days opposite my driveway and not moved. We now have a car parked by renters outside number 1 Cassie Street that's been there for over 15 months. The owners never use it and have moved it twice in that time. So they have a permanent parking spot in the street. They frequently have a second car parked next to this car. This contributes to problems further up the street. The owner of Unit 3 misses out on gutter sweeping and struggles to find anywhere to put her bins as she has no driveway off the street.
Sorry, Liz, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap up, thanks.
Sorry, I've 2 more slides. So this is the car she has to sweep the leaves out into the middle of the street and it looks disgusting. I don't have time to talk about all the tripping hazards on because of the poor state of the footpath. So this is what we need. Council needs to stop spending all the money on sporting facilities and art and instead mitigate the risks in streets like Cassie Street by resurfacing doing an appropriate Cassie traffic count that picks up the speed of traffic down the street, installing traffic calming devices such as a raised platform to slow traffic, improving the footpaths so our elderly residents, and we have many, do not trip and fall on the terrible footpaths. We have people using walkers and gophers. My elderly 92-year-old neighbour's mobility walker fell to bits because the footpaths are in such a bad state and she needs to go on a small walk every day. installing the much needed line markings and road divisions to stop drivers. This is the last one. Cutting the corner to enter the street at Western End, marking yellow lines and hockey sticks to allow residents to safely exit their driveways and not have accidents when doing so, pruning the Chinese elms, and introducing a 3 to 4 hour parking on the eastern end of the street from number 1 to number 5 and number 2 to number 8 to stop people leaving their cars on the street for long periods of time and taking up permanent parks on the street.
Thank you, Lucy. Are there any questions for the...
And that could apply for those streets.
Councillor Bunnett.
Just first, are we able to have a copy of the presentation?
Yes, you certainly can. Yep. Yep.
Yes, I know that you've lived a long time in Castle Street, so are you able to share how long you've lived there? So you've experienced
Nearly 40 years, and the street's completely changed. Yep.
Are there any further questions for the Deputy? If not, I thank you very much for putting forward the information and look forward to receiving a copy.
Yeah, and I'll just say, the richest house in the Redmond Street now has a lovely brand new yellow line across his driveway, and we get nothing in our street.
Item 8.2, Deputy Stephanie Ferretti talking about support for Christmas in Prospect Fair 2026. So, Steph, just name and address for purposes of the minutes, please.
My name is Stephanie Ferretti, and I'm here to ask about adding 25k to the council draft for the Christmas, in support of the Christmas community fair. Yeah.
Okay, so you've got 5 minutes and your time. Let's start now.
Good evening to the Mayor, Matt Larwood, and our Prospect councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Stephanie, and I'm here on behalf of my incredible group of powerhouse Christmas volunteers who have had the privilege of working alongside to bring last year's Christmas fair to life in our little city. We're simply locals, friends, businesses who care deeply about Prospect and believe in the power of connection, especially during the festive season. My mission has always been to connect with my community and to do whatever I can to bring people together, especially in a season where many may need the most. I truly believe that when people come together, share experiences and support one another, it strengthens the heart and spirit of where we live. I also want to sincerely thank the Council for continuing to support this mission and for recognising the countless of hours that goes into events like this. Behind each community event, there's a significant amount of volunteering time put into this day. We also balance full-time jobs, family life, and I personally volunteer with the Prospect Lions Club as well. But we give our time because we generally care about something, creating something meaningful for others. Last year, with the generous support of the City of Prospect, we brought this Christmas fair to Prospect Memorial Gardens for the first time, which was a wonderful space, and it created a lasting memory for many. Just under 4,000 people came together in the heart of Prospect. Families, neighbours, local businesses, schools, community groups gathered in a space that felt welcoming, inclusive and full of festive spirit. We proudly supported around 50 South Australian small businesses while working alongside North Adelaide Football Club, included 50 plus volunteers who generously gave their time to make the day a magical experience. The fair was filled with live entertainment, a vibrant car display, emergency services, free kids activities and a spectacular ride from Santa with our local MP, Lucy Hood, that brought so much joy to our families. We're also incredibly grateful for the support from our Mayor, councillors and Lucy Hood, who continue to strongly support this event and the positive impact that it brings to our area. We've taken time to listen to families, to businesses, to volunteers, and we've heard how much this event means to them, how excited they are to see it return. Because of that, we're already working on making this year's more inclusive. vibrant and reflective of our community. This year we're bringing back a traditional Lions dance celebrating culture and diversity within our community. We're expanding our multicultural food offering, giving the people the opportunity to experience and enjoy a wider range of cuisines. We're also collaborating with Coffee and Crone Club, allowing us to deliver a bigger and more spectacular car show, attracting more visitors and creating an exciting feature within the event. In addition to this, we're thrilled to be working with the South Australian Police Band, who will be performing, as well as our live music bands, adding to the atmosphere and bringing even more energy and entertainment to the day. For many families, especially with the ongoing cost of living pressures, this is more than just an event. It's an event where people feel welcome, where children can experience some Christmas cheer at no cost, an event offering for everyone, and where a community can come together and feel connected. The cost to deliver this event was approximately $30,000 as last event, and as the event continues to grow, we expect similar costs moving forward. And this is where I humbly ask for your support. Tonight, I respectfully ask you to consider including $25 allocated in the draft council budget to support the continuation of Christmas in Prospect Fair this December the 6th. This is more than funding an event, it's an investment in your community. It's an investment in local businesses, in volunteers, in families, and in creating a space where people feel they belong. With your support, we can build this into a signature annual event for Prospect each December, one that reflects diversity, generosity, and spirit for this community, one that continues to grow each year and year. On behalf of all of our volunteers, I want to sincerely thank you for the support you've already shown. We could not do this without you. I truly hope we continue to work together to bring this event to life again. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and everything you do for the community.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the Deputy? Councillor Barnett.
Thank you, Steph, for all the work you volunteers have done over many years with other events and that as well. So just to clarify, out of the $35,000 budget that you're proposing, is that correct?
25.
You're asking for the $25,000 that's currently in council's proposed budget, yes, to be retained. Yeah, so out of your total of 35,000, is that correct? Yeah, so yeah, I just wanted to clarify that, that's all. Thank you for your work. I look forward to the one coming.
It's not long. It's around the corner.
Councillor Brick.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Stephanie, for your presentation. Just a question: if council doesn't support this event, can it go ahead?
I can't do it without that.
Any further questions for the Deputy? If not, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Item 8.3, Will Curtis, Prospect Lifestyle Precinct. So, name, we know.
Yeah, Will Curtis.
Suburb, we know.
Prospect, yeah.
You've got 5 minutes. I've been a little lenient tonight, so if you go over by a little bit of time, well, that's fine.
Okay. All right, so yes, you all know me, Will Curtis, and I'm here on behalf of the Prospect Concerned Residents Group, many of which are here today. Since August 24, I've been part of the Community Reference Group for the PLP. In the initial stages, myself and many other residents were excited by the vision of the PLP, as the Prospect Oval precinct badly needs upgrades, especially the broken concrete mounds, the rundown toilets, and the cricket club building. But as the many phases of consultation have progressed, we've seen it grow into development that is much larger than originally expected by the community. Throughout the consultation process, it was very clear that the respondents did not want this. Each time the results were presented, they were dismissed, however, as it was stated that only a small biased percentage of the community participated. It was assumed that the silent majority wanted this large-scale development. Upon entering the fourth phase of consultation, we were again facing the same issue of feeling unheard. So we decided to conduct a petition with the community to find out what they really think. To ensure we captured as many people as possible, we conducted both an online petition and door-knocked a physical petition with local residents. In total, our petition received 2,230 signatures in the period from the 12th of February to the 9th of March, so less than a month. I would imagine that this would be one of the largest, if not the largest, petition in the City of Prospect's history, which he asked tonight. Of these 2,230 signatures, 814 were obtained through the online portion, and 1,416 were obtained through door knocking. And of these total signatures, 73%, so almost 3/4, are from residents within the council area and 27% outside. This substantial number of signatures was achieved in a very short period of time and was done across all 4 wards of the Prospect Council area. We estimate, however, we only covered roughly about 20 to 25% of the homes, given the enormity of the task. As was expected, residents living close to the development were very willing to sign. We estimate approximately 90% of the people we spoke to. In other wards, the figure was slightly lower, but it was still high. For example, on Braun Road in the West Ward, we door-knocked the entire street over a 7-hour period. From these 121 homes, 62 answered, and there were 51 who signed, which was 82%, and only 11 who didn't sign, 18%. Now, the percentage of people willing to sign decreased to approximately 2/3 on the streets furthest away from the oval, so in Broadview, etc. But still a high number. In previous consultations, the number of residents who were against the high level of development was actually similar to these numbers that we found, 80% in the Phase 2 consultation. However, at the time, these results were ignored as local adjacent resident bias, as most of the participants who got involved lived close to the oval. But our petition results show that this is not the case, and that these concerns are echoed across the entire council area. The low level of participation in previous consultations assume that most people who didn't participate are in favour. However, people have busy lives, they often don't have the time to be aware of and participate in numerous consultations. So it can't be assumed that the silent majority of people support the current development proposed. We suspect that as per other information shared from our group, there will be some effort to discredit our petition as myths and misinformation. However, we really tried and gave our utmost care to ensure all information that was provided to the petitioners was clear and correct. Key messaging in Q&A was provided them to ensure they had access to some supporting information that you would only found through council documents. And we also encouraged them to take the brochure that was provided by the City of Prospect whilst door knocking, so we could show them the actual size and scale of the development. Our action plan was stated to door knockers not to be pushy. If people didn't want to sign, that's absolutely fine. We didn't have to. As you can see, at least 2/3 of the community doesn't want this, but they are supportive of something happening, something of lower density and cost. Thanks. And if that means you can't have all the upgrades you want, many of which are wants rather than needs, then so be it. Now's the time to listen to your community, because who is more important to them, as they're the ones who have to live with the legacy of the development, those who pay the rates and those who vote in the elections. As per our petition, we request that you scrap the current master plan, land revocation and code amendment, then go back and work on alternative lower density proposals and put these to the community to vote on. You'll be making a lot of key decisions on this in the coming months, as you know, and to ignore this petition would be a mistake. You can now see there's no broad community support for this, which was evident through the consultation process, but has now been confirmed with this petition. So to conclude, please don't say that no decisions have been made on this yet. We're well aware of the intention to sign up a developer by the end of July, only 1 month prior to the caretaker period. Now, there's no rush for this, and there's no need to burden an incoming council with flawed decision making. So please, I really encourage you to take on board our petition for what it's worth. Thanks for your time, and yeah, we really hope you take it on board.
Thank you, Will. Are there any questions for the Deputy? I'll go Councillor Backer and then Councillor Brett.
Yeah. Just say thank you very much, and I think firstly just mentioning your role on the community reference group. Yes. So obviously the petition has sort of come from that kind of data. I mean, I love data making decisions because it becomes less emotive and more factual.
Yeah.
In the phase 1 of the engagement, was the community reference group ever surveyed on the engagement process itself?
Not that I can remember.
In phase 2 of the engagement, was the community reference group ever surveyed on the engagement process itself?
Not that I can remember. I did raise the question at the time, are you sure the community wants this at the time? But I can't remember if it was exact.
And in phase 3, was the community reference group any surveyed on the engagement process itself?
Again, I can't remember, to be honest.
I don't want to put you on the spot.
No,
it's just because I guess I attended a few of the community reference group meetings in the gallery, and certainly the petition that you're speaking to does resonate. That maybe at those reference groups do you feel you were being heard at the reference groups?
Certainly, I would say that I was probably the only one living really close to the development.
Yeah.
There were a few who were still around, and we understand that not everyone supports our view. You know, there are many people who support the development as it is, but I felt that the group itself, you know, I was probably the only local resident. A lot of the other people were developers who have experience in design and things like that, and so that's my opinion.
Which is the intent, because obviously
Yes.
we needed to have a broad range. So I guess just being mindful that obviously residents is part of that. So I'm good. It's great to see the data, but I'm also interested in the reference group, and I'm speaking to that later in the night.
Thanks.
Councillor Greg.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Will, for the discussion tonight. I had a couple of questions. The first one was in your experience, because you were out door knocking as well.
Yes.
Was there a really broad awareness of the project? Just hearing one of the deputies earlier saying they weren't aware of it. Did you find that people weren't aware of it, or were most aware of it but not maybe the detail?
I would say, really, this brochure here got most people aware of it, right? But if you asked me for a number, I would say probably, I don't know, 3/4 knew about it, and a quarter I would say didn't know about it. Whether that's because of their own choice not to be interested or not, I'm not sure, but that's what I would indicate is people knew about it. Everyone who did know about it, though, said they couldn't believe how big it is. You know, ever since the brochure came out, they were like, wow, this is unbelievable, it's huge. Yeah.
And that goes to my second question, which you probably just answered. In terms of height, or beyond the issue of height, were there other issues that people raised with you on the doorstep saying, I don't like the height, but also don't like anything else? Or was it mainly the height issue?
It was the scale, just how massive it is, and it's so unexpected in our area. They already see a lot of, well, this is just the feedback I had, is that they already see a lot of the developments that have already gone up, the Harrington and others that have gone up in the area that are that kind of medium density, and even that has caused issues, and they are happy to tell you about that. So they're very concerned about the size and scale of this development, that it's going to be that plus more.
Again, just to say thank you, and also thank you for taking a balanced approach to this. You're not coming here saying don't do anything. You're saying, well, my interpretation of what you're saying is do something, but not at the scale that we were talking about. So I really appreciate that, that balance that you're bringing to the groups.
Any further questions, Councillor Nelson? So before you do, just wanted to confirm, so in regards to the makeup of the CRG, everybody who was on the CRG was a resident of Prospect, regardless of what their trade or profession might be. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yep.
Yeah, Will.
Hey, Jason.
Obviously, as with Alison and Mark, you know, think these things are great. You know, people might think we're against them, but we're not. You know, these things are here to keep us on our toes and keep us aware. So, thank you for all your work and for hitting the pavement. For transparency, you and I, along with Ollie and Rick, caught up 3 weeks ago.
That's right.
For 90 minutes, and chatted about all this, all the financials, all the working models of 5 stories, 8 stories, 12 stories. So we've run through all these models. Correct?
Yeah.
I just wanted to have a chat with you because I think I did raise this question with you then. I just wanted to make it for the record. When the petition was going around, and the only way I found out about it was getting a number of calls from residents. In the question of the petition, you've said this proposal sounds great. Why are you against it? Fantastic question. You answered it saying we're not against upgrades at the Oval, but believe they're badly needed. Of course, we all agree. Then in brackets you state the toilets and the mounds are well past their use by date, which again we all agree. So my first question is, do you therefore, I'm not trying to make this a loaded question, do you therefore believe the cricket club rooms, the RSL, the non-DDA compliant grandstand and the croquet club, they're all okay.
Oh, I'm not telling you exactly what to do and what not to do. I'm telling you that the expectation from the community is the benefit that is being delivered by these things is outweighed by the massive scale of development. People don't see the value in it. If you could do a smaller scale development, look, you may have to do some things, you may not be able to do some things, maybe you could do them over a longer period of time, but at the moment this is outside of the community's expectations.
I think that was the feedback that I was getting when I was going to people's living rooms after you'd been around and done the petition and everything else, and wanted to hear what they were saying. Because I then went on to say that, however, we believe 12-storey buildings are unnecessary, and this entire development could be done on a lower scale and be fantastic for the community. And that's when people come back to me saying, why are you doing 12 stories? And I said to them exactly what I said to you three weeks ago. Tell us what you don't want done and what doesn't need to be done, and we can reduce it. I can guarantee if we go around the table here, no one here wants to go over 10, 12 stories. Absolutely not. What we're looking at is what the community demands and what needs to be done through 3 previously failed master plans over the last 16 years. This has just been kicked down the road the whole time. So I guess what I'm asking for you, and again, not letting up a question, mate, but if we're saying here that development could be done on a lower scale and size, maximum 5 to 6 stories, and still be fantastic. Have you done any financial modelling or looked at what can be done with a 5 to 6 story?
You're the council. Listen to the residents.
Your job.
What a setup.
And why have you actually done a development that's outside the Development Act? It is twice the size. You have actually gone through and approved.
You can't.
Stop calling him mate. He's your mate.
You can't yell out from the audience, mate. Sorry.
I don't work in the council. You know,
maybe
all I'm telling you is that the community's expectations, this is outside of the expectations. So I think we should look, I can't tell you exactly what to get rid of, but I think that we need to reduce the scale of the upgrades, right? Lights, for example, you know, we've discussed that and a few other things. But that's I'm just telling you what the community is saying.
100%, I get that. And as you and I just discussed, if you look at the current ones, the lights and the MRF, the stage 2 of the MRF, aren't even funded with the current 12-storey one. So when we went through all those fundings, at the moment, if we do a 5-storey development, as we went through the financials, the 5-storey development fixes the mounds. That's it. Nothing else gets done. So I guess I'm just looking for feedback of what else can we cross off.
Maybe that's what you need to do, or maybe you can find other sources of funding, maybe do it over a longer time. I'm not sure. I don't have all the answers. All I know.
So all good, mate. Cheers.
Are there any further questions? If not, thanks for the deputation.
Cool. Thank you, everyone.
Moving on to item 9, questions without notice. Are there any questions without notice? Councillor Nelson and Councillor Groot.
On the weekend and again tonight on our way here, notice there continues to be some damaged pavers on 85 Prospect Road outside St Louis. Just wondering what's happening with them. It seems to be going on for quite a long time.
So, yeah.
My understanding is, for you, Mr Mayor, that there is a challenge with utility infrastructure under the pavement that's causing that problem. Mr Delena, can you provide that? You have it?
Yeah, through the chair. Thank you, Councillor Nelson, for that question. With refers to a section of pavement about roughly 1 square metre in the front of St Louis Cafe on Prospect Road. Ever since the redevelopment occurred, there's been this issue that occurs every time there's a major rainfall event that there's an upswell underneath the pavement and the pavers displace. It's not a simple fix. It's something that we've been working with the property owner, who's been reluctantly requesting a review. Has concluded that it's not their responsibility, and effectively we've had to take charge of the situation to determine where the responsibility actually lays. As of late last week, we dug down a hole about 2 metres and discovered a broken sewer trench, main, earthenware pipe that appears to have potentially stormwater being placed through it as well through the new development, and causing this surcharge in major rainfall events. So we're working through it. I think we're almost there. We're doing some further testing, and the intent is to engage with the property owner as soon as we can cross off the last element to link it back to support issue on his property or engage SS Water as it relates to the connection that's actually under the footpath, not under the property.
So no timeline yet? Sorry.
Not other than the fact it remains a priority. We're invested in the solution. It's currently bunted off, and it's a bit of an eyesore in a really important part of Perth.
I had Councillor Reach.
Thank you. I have three questions. The first one just relates back to one of the questions without notice we heard tonight from the public, and that's in relation to trees in the PLP. Can I just understand what have we done in terms of assessing trees in the PLP site? Because I just kind of searching through some former council papers, there has been some discussion on trees. Certainly not a number given in terms of how many will be cut down, but we have done some work. Can I just get some clarity about what work has been done on trees?
CEO might throw that one to you.
So through you, Mr Mayor, I'm aware that we've done a full tree survey of the site that's been reported to Council. Mr Pearce, can you expand on that?
Yeah, sure. Through the Mayor, I will take us back to the July 2025 master plan adoption, and within that report, there was quite a detailed harvest report, noting all the trees on the site, irrespective within the proposed new master plan area or not. They were all assessed as to the quality of those trees, whether they are what particular value they hold in terms of whether they're regulated and so on. So that work has been undertaken, and subsequent to that, there was another refinement of that report by the arborist once the proposed or initial concept plan was done or outlined, to give an indication of surrounding trees that could be potentially affected. So at the moment, the summary is we have that report, and as has been mentioned tonight, final designs on whatever may be approved in the future haven't been locked in, so it's very hard to analyse or give exact potentially affected trees. There will be certainly trees removed, for example, on the contaminated mounds, but in other areas, for example, if the cricket rooms are ultimately destroyed, there are trees nearby that have affected root zones and others that will be analysed in those reports. So further work will continue to be done with workers.
So just for clarity, did I hear you say we do have a report that does identify impacted, not assessed, but impacted trees?
So yeah.
That's what I thought I heard you say.
Through the Mayor, we know that some are impacted because they're on the contaminated mounds, that's what I heard. The others obviously are going to be subject to detail and so on. But I think it's fair to say that a significant number are potentially impacted if you look at the development envelope. However, without detailed design, it's impossible to say exactly how many. Mr Pearce, accurate?
Yeah, through the Mayor again. So the initial concept that the Council has based feasibilities and other things on, the affected trees, the affected number of trees, is in the order of 90, if I remember correctly, in total, going from small to large, and that's an estimate. So we always said, broadly, based on the principle of 3 for 1, there'll at least be 270 new ones, but probably 500.
Thank you. Thank you. Second question is just in relation to the ITP. Could probably the appropriate director just give us some advice about what the ITP says in relation to Cassie Street and whether any treatment's been planned for that street?
Yeah.
I might pass that question on to the director, but add a little bit of flavour to it, because I think the asset management plan also has a bit to say about Cassie Street. Mr Delano?
Through the chair, so the ITP reflects Cassie Street as a local road. So I know that Cassie Street has had traffic counters that have been placed as a lead up to the ITP. There was at least 2 locations along the street that counters were placed which showed very low numbers of traffic, and when I say very low numbers, for a local road in the order of 600 to 800 across those 2 counters. Our upper limit for a local road is 2,000 vehicles per day. Also low speeds in the order of between 24 and possibly that by the location that Ms. Chris was referring to, up to 32 at the other end of the road. So it's still a low-speed environment. It is a narrow road, so it isn't conducive to a high-speed environment. Notwithstanding the so that's in summary in respect to the ITP, no further significant works proposed on the ITP other than potential treatment associated with the narrow road at some point based on a priority working through our network in a priority manner. In terms of its from an asset management perspective, there's no doubt this road is reaching end of life. It's literally 1 to 2 years away from a renewal, and I know that our team are out there today, just no chance in terms of doing their potholing treatment in a number of streets, including in Cassie Street. So it's not far away, and obviously council spends well in excess of $1 million a year on road resurfacing treatments, and has a reasonably high level of service with respect to our roads based on the data that we've collected over time.
Also, the line marking, Mr. Delano?
Yeah. So, and maybe just clarify that. So, proposal is a reseal, complete reseal, 30 million bitumen over the next 1 to 2 years. In terms of line marking, we have recently re-awarded our line marking contract as a shared service arrangement with Unley. That contract is due to start shortly, and there is a body of work across the network that will be undertaken, including on Cassie Street, where those lines will be refreshed, and there are some additional treatments that are proposed to help just the local traffic movements in and out of the Langer.
I think the point made by the Deputy around the 40 km/h sign and the placement of the traffic handle are both probably worth thinking about should we ever be in a position to move that sign further west or when we next recount the road. The last question I had was just in relation to a comment that I took some offence to, Councillor Nelson, around 3 failed master plans for the Prospect Oval site. I'm just wondering, and I can't ask Councillor Nelson this question, unfortunately.
If you wait till your motion, I'm going to talk all about them.
Excellent. But can I ask administration, in terms of the 3 failed, have we had 3 failed master plans at Prospect Oval? Because I can't, I'm sure Councillor Nelson will prove me wrong later on, but I can't put my mind to any. I can put my mind to some that we didn't continue with, but so not failed. In fact, I do remember one master plan we were involved with some years ago with the Mayor and Councillor Barlow from Mavis and others, which resulted in a fairly significant upgrade to Memorial Gardens. So it's probably a question you might not be able to answer, but I think it's one worth asking. And I'm sure I'll hear the answer a little bit later on.
Is there a definition of a failed master plan CEO that we can draw upon? There definitely has been 3 master plans in the last less than the last 20 years. I'm not going to comment on the use of the term failed either way, so I can't answer that part of the question, but we can confirm that there have been 3 master plans brought along to a certain level of clarity since 2009, for example.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, one of those didn't ultimately get adopted by council, which was the one that we actually had a workshop on shortly before we purchased the main road property, members of the 2023. That was, I think, what we would all refer to as the 2020 almost master plan, but it was very well advanced. And there were 2 earlier ones, as I recall, that I'm aware of. There may be others, whether they'll fail or not, so
I reckon about 5 minutes.
Thank you for those questions. So are there any other questions for that notice? If not, I'll move on to item 10, reports for decision. 10.1. Internal review under Section 270 of Local Government Act 1999, report for determination. Recommendation on page 7, and I believe that I'm looking for a mover for this recommendation. Deputy Mayor Nelson would like to speak to the motion.
Absolutely. So obviously I acknowledge the importance of a Section 270 review. Very important in the democracy that we have, and I welcome it, particularly on a matter that's of this significance. It helps to keep us accountable and on our toes. So this process, I'm sure like everyone here, we've read it from cover to cover. This process has now been independently reviewed, exactly as required under the Act. An external reviewer was appointed to ensure full impartiality. The findings are clear. Council followed all the correct processes. There has been no basis to overturn the original decision. So affirming this resolution provides certainty and keeps the project moving. We can't afford to second guess lawful and properly made decisions, and for those reasons I support the motion to reaffirm the resolution.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Nelson. Do I have a seconder? So again, Councillor Holland.
Yes, I think it's great we've received this, and it shows that you know, the processes and have been followed. It's really shows there's no red flags, concerns there, and I think it's good the public can now has this as reference. So that's pretty much all I have to say. I support it.
Thank you, Councillor Holland. Any further discussion, Councillor Barnett?
Yes, I seek to move a variation as part 3. I think that is up before. So that information be placed on Prospect Council's website on its Prospect Lifestyle. And I propose this because, as we mentioned before, that we do live in representative democracy, and I think it's in the public interest for us to be able to approve my variation and have it inform public report. In council reports, the report that comes after this full agenda report, the report and agenda papers are not actually recorded, so that would mean which is on council. I think this just makes it in plain and I just think that it's very important for that to happen. And I think stressing that it was done by an impartial and independent consultant to undertake this, and I think it's interesting also that in reading the review, I noticed it contained additional information from the review applicant, which this is why the review was held, this request purpose, seeking following resolution as part of his review, and now as part of his it's now part of his petition part 1, which is scrap the current PLD master plan, which is of the community land verification code. And also in the petition it was about a no decisions to be made on the Prospect Lifestyle Precinct until this review that is currently before us has been completed. Well, obviously the review is now completed. I think it's interesting to note that the is considered that above additional information from the applicant, and in doing so, the independent reviewer is not of the opinion, I repeat, not of the opinion, that decisions or activities associated with the Prospect Lifestyle Precinct need to cease at this time. The independent impartial reviewer view was that the Phase 4 draft code amendment consultation currently underway will provide further feedback to inform future decisions regarding the Prospect Lifestyle Precinct. However, ultimately, this is a decision for Council. This is the impartial independent reviewer saying this. Council will consider this report and its recommendation in due course. It will also cover simultaneously considering another lifestyle precinct-related decisions, including the outcomes from the Phase 4 draft code amendment consultation and possible revocation. Should the Minister support Council's proposal for rectification? That's a direct quote. So I urge elected members in the interests of full transparency and a democratic spirit that variation 3 be included of the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. I will ask for a simple yes or no from the mover and the seconder. The mover?
Yes.
And the seconder. We now have part 3 to the motion. Is there any further discussion, any points that have been raised for Councillor Tobacco?
I actually asked the administration yesterday if the reviewer would be present, given the serious nature of the 270. I mean, it's obviously something that people don't do lightly. He's not that wasn't in the scope, I understand.
I believe that wasn't in the scope, yes.
Right. So I just want to understand a little bit better about the scope of this in regards to community consultation. So I read through the report again in December, and one of the things, we've gone through 3 phases of consultation, and I'm just concerned, I guess, the way we're getting feedback on the process. So was the scope of that to actually look at some of the engagement that we've done already as far as feedback from participants? So have we surveyed workshop attendees and the CRG group, or people that have written surveys in phase 1 or phase 2 or phase 3? That's just a question.
My guess of an answer would be that the scope of the independent review was based on the submission put forward. So I don't think it would have gone any further than the points that were raised by the person who submitted the Section 270, and therefore, as long as it responded to the concerns raised and has adequately answered them, I can't see there's an issue there, but I might also ask the CEO to build on that answer.
So through you, Mr Mayor, Council, the limitations of Section 270 are clearly outlined in the law, as is the scope of the requested review undertaken. Council can't read into someone's request for an internal review and add to it. And certainly it was a question, the review was a question around challenging the decision of Council to progress with the revocation of community land as part of the PLP to the Minister for Local Government. That was the question based upon our policy we had to present to the independent reviewer, and the independent reviewer has assessed that question. Now clearly the question of whether or not Council fundamentally failed in its consultation phase was considered by the reviewer. That was not considered by the reviewer to be an obstacle to Council's decision, nor was it a decision that the reviewer felt needed to be reviewed to be changed by Council. I think what you're asking is beyond the scope of the review, not beyond the scope of Section 270's capability to invite a review. If the question had been challenging specifically the community consultation process, then there might have been more time spent on that. But the reviewer addressed the question presented.
Just to clarify, my understanding the concern was around bias. So I guess for us to disprove that, we could say, for example, if we had surveyed, so there's a question, I suppose, yes or no, or in minutes, did we do consultation on the engagement process on phase 1?
Did we do consultation?
On the engagement process. So usually best practice is when you do an engagement, afterwards you survey the respondents to say, did you feel you were heard? Did you have enough time?
I'm not sure if that question relates to what the subject of the Section 270 was. CEO, your thoughts?
I'm struggling, Mr Mayor. Look, I'll say this. Members, you approved, I believe it was in roughly April or May of 2024. I believe it was April or May of 2024. I can't recall exactly, but it would have been one of a few months. A comprehensive engagement strategy for this project. Phase 1 consultation was a very early phase of consultation, if I recall correctly, that addressed the question of essentially an open-ended discussion around what residents would like to see from PLP and the outcomes they would expect from that. Ms Taylor, can you recall, you may have to take this in notes, but can you recall whether or not following phase 1 consultation we surveyed respondents on their impressions of the process?
Through the chair, certainly when throughout the democracy, we didn't collect people's details. That was just pop-ups in different areas where people placed dots. So we certainly didn't collect their information through that process. But through, I would have to double check and take a notice of phase 1. But phases 2 and 3 through engagement hub, if you did register and you undertook, I guess, the survey or the information through engagement hub, you would have received a follow-up email once it's closed to say thank you very much, we've received your information, if there's any improvements, please let us know.
Noting that phase 1 was not a legally required phase of consultation. It's something the Council invited us to approach the community with questions, open-ended questions on their desires for things.
So I guess I'm just trying to find out through the engagement, if we've actually been doing that continual improvement piece, because no one likes to see a petition thinking people have been not heard, and I just want, I guess, reassurance. So if that feedback on the engagement process for this one, number 3, could be circulated to elected members, that would be good if that's been done for phase 3, which this pertains to.
So through the Mayor, you're asking for us to circulate the results of the post-consultation survey of respondents.
Yes.
Ms. Taylor, that's something we can
Through the chair, can do. I'm not sure how many responses we actually received.
But I think it's just reassuring to know that that's been done, and people that attended workshops or had an opportunity.
Details. Like the people who received the information, that would have been through Engagement Hub.
We'll give you what we can, Councillor.
Yeah. I'll just be really clear. What I'm asking is in phase 3, where participants surveyed on the engagement process.
Sorry, Councillor, I don't think this line of questioning relates to item number 10.1 on the agenda. So I think if you've got concerns around any aspect of the consultation process, unless I'm incorrect, if you've got any concerns around the consultation process, then I recommend a course of action could be to consider putting forward a motion at the next meeting, asking for whatever you want to know, but I honestly don't think that it relates to item 10.1.
Mr. Mayor, through you, if I may, I see an indistinct but somewhat correlated connection due to the fact that phase 3 consultation actually addressed the question of the 270, which is the revocation decision. And to be clear, Ms. Taylor answered your question. The consultation, post-consultation feedback was received. She did answer that question, and we will provide it if we can.
That's all I want. Thank you. Cheers.
Councillor Grid, I believe you've got a question.
I think I did.
Something that has been raised already or discussed already?
Oh, not necessarily. No. So, first question is, can you take in parts, please?
Happy to take in parts.
Thank you. Look, it's a comment, it's just a comment I was going to make, really. I'll support 1 and 3, and I thank Councillor Barnett for her variation. I think that makes a lot of sense. I would probably point out that the democratic process isn't that we just do it. The democratic process is that we discuss it and we make a decision individually, just to split hairs on the democracy. But I won't support item 2, and largely because I think the point made by the applicant was really, for me, quite important. It's about what did we know and what did we tell residents at that point of consultation. And I think for me that's the sticking point, and that's what I would endorse. The second recommendation of the motion, I will support item 2.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Otherwise, I'll head back to Deputy Mayor Nelson to sum up, please.
Yeah, look, very briefly, since I joined council, one of my biggest frustrations has been things move so slow. I haven't hidden that fact. I'm used to being very active and getting things done, but how slow things move, the delays, the red tape, the bureaucracy. But I guess this review, undertaken by an independent, obviously has, and at a significant cost to ratepayers to get this done, vindicates the processes that we do and helps me understand them more of why we do what we do. And this is why we come to the decisions that we've made, and whether we feel vindicated or approved or whatever it is, this is done by an independent reviewer, answered perfectly to the questions that were asked, and I think that to reaffirm our resolution is fitting.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Nelson. Let's put this to the vote, taking in parts. Item 1, all those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Part 2, all those in favour? Against?
Divisions.
Motion not carried. Division? If you voted in favour of Part 2, please stand for the first time, and maybe not the last time tonight, I suspect. Thank you. Part 3, all those in favour? All those against, carried unanimously. Item 10.2 on the agenda, review of parking enforcement policy settings. Recommendation on page 35. Do I have a mover? Deputy Mayor Nelson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Why not? I think this recommendation really strikes the right balance between enforcement, fairness and community expectations. I think there's been a lot of really good work that's gone into it. We've had a couple of workshops about it. But I think this makes it clear that this is not about revenue, subject to obviously a lot of public feedback. This is about safety, accessibility and better behaviours. I particularly want to highlight Principle 3, which I was very, very happy to read, regarding education. Many people don't intentionally do the wrong thing. They simply don't understand the rules, especially in school zones. So if we want to have lasting change, we need to focus on education first, clear communication, working within the schools, and helping people get it right. The warnings first approach is also very important. It builds trust and gives people a fair chance to adjust. And these principles create a practical, balanced foundation for policy, and for those reasons I support the motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Nelson. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Councillor Green.
Look, would also confirm that it's a very good paper, very good motion, thank you. The only thing I was going to comment on was to ensure that as we go through the process of policy, policy development, that we don't allow the principles to constrain us too much. If there's something else that comes up, it's the unknown, and we think actually we do have to do with that. It's not covered by the principle. I want to ensure, and I'm sure there will be anyway, the flexibility to say actually this is a new issue that's come up, we need to do it. The principles right now, on the 24th of March, seem to cover everything that we're thinking, but in a month or 2 months or 6 months, there may be other things. But otherwise, I think it's a great motion and look forward to seeing it develop further into the policy.
Thank you. And I, from the Chair, agree with your point. And as we continue to develop the concept of managing this tricky situation, I'm almost certain that new ideas and new challenges may be identified, and I think it is prudent to ensure that we have the ability to incorporate this into this from a policy setting point of view. Any discussion points, anything that hasn't been raised before, Councillor Tweena?
I attended the workshop in February, and we had a lot of interested parties at the workshop, and it was really well organised and conducted. We had opportunities for families and parents and teachers and all the different schools there talking about concerns. And I guess what put it home for me was everybody's genuinely interested in safety and trying to make this city safe. So I love the principles in there. Deputy Mayor spoke about education, and I remember on our table we spoke about educating, but also knowing our community, and that when we go out and educate, it has to be from the perspective of our community and knowing our community, whether there's a language barrier to the the parents or the grandparents. So I think if we think about that approach and go with the education way, it's really good moving forward, so that we wanted to create a safer city for our city. I really enjoyed that workshop, and I think we should do more of that and listening to the feedback from that group, so that we can develop policy that's really in the best interest of our community.
Thank you, Councillor. When any further discussion, Councillor Barnett and then Councillor Barnett.
Yes, I think this is a very good, as you say, things can change, cars and that change. A lot of some of our rules change. Well, not necessarily our rules, but the ones in charge of setting road rules, which are national and state, and necessarily us as a council that makes a lot of the rules and decides a lot of the fines. And I think Principle 5 is quite good, because you can educate, and you have to really support trying to stop the unlawful or dangerous behaviour. So I think that's an important point. I thought it was very good, the workshop that Councillor John spoke about was, I thought, done in an excellent manner, a cooperative manner, with all the various people concerned. It was very useful. We had a representative from the RAA there, and I'm just hoping that perhaps in council's magazines or Facebook that we could start including more. I know the RAA does it in his magazine. They've got not groups of the RAA. It's really good. So I just think the more we can do on that education side, and not on some Facebook sites when people are there and complaining that they've had a fine and the rest of it. And there may be mitigating circumstances. But as some respondents say, well, you've got a driver's licence, you're supposed to know what the law is and what the changes are. So I just think there's that side of it as well. It behoves us, if we have a driver's licence or a licence, that we're in charge of quite considered dangerous, could be dangerous vehicles. And I think there's that other side of it that we do need to be aware of it's a right to have, it's not only a right to have a driver's licence, there's a responsibility involved. So I would like to see that we could perhaps include some more, did you know, or that sort of type of approach, and perhaps flesh out a little bit more on the website. I haven't checked the latest one, but I think there could be, some more links, say, to the RAA or some other things like that. So thanks for bringing this to us.
Thank you. Councillor Becker?
Yeah, look, I'm quite torn on this one. So certainly education is really good, but we do have bylaws, and it's talking about unlawful behaviour. So I'm just concerned when there's discretion involved with an officer. It's a huge responsibility to have. And I don't know if our risk person is still here. He's gone. But I don't know, has this been put through a risk lens? Because I would hate to have that on my conscience if we've sort of accepted poor behaviour and then the next day the child gets hurt or worse. So though I understand the principles from a legal perspective, I won't be supporting it. I just think it's to have that discretion at an officer level with the potential if someone's been doing something unlawful and then potentially repeating that behaviour. Because the whole point of enforcement is to deter bad behaviour. So I do understand it, but I won't be supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Becker. If there's no further... Councillor Twinwin.
So unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it to the session, but we did something similar during the ITP process about parking. I think this is a great move, working especially with the schools to provide education, because I think that's really important, and suggesting them to do that on a regular basis is really important as well. And just to what Councillor Tabaka just said, I understand that perspective also, but I feel it says including warning. So if it hasn't been done before, a warning to educate the individual about what's expected and what the road rules are. So I think on a first basis, a warning, is providing that individual to understand the road rules. So I think that's fair. I think it's really, really important that we support the community in understanding road rules and how to practice safe behaviour on the roads rather than expediting. And sometimes you might get pushback from that as well. So I believe working with the community to help them understand is a better outcome. And I feel like it's a better way for them to make sure that they do it again in the future. But I totally, I love this piece of work and I support the motion.
Thank you. I might head back to Deputy Mayor Nelson to sum up.
I had a really good summation of it, then I just hit delete and I don't know what it was, so it couldn't have been that good. Good motion.
Best summer I've had tonight.
Thank you very much.
Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried.
Division.
Happily stand.
No, you can only sit down.
You have to stand.
Yes, we could have exercise.
Okay, item 10.3, Australian Local Government Association National General Assembly 2026 recommendations. There I will declare a conflict of interest, material conflict of interest, and I will leave the room and not take part in the discussion or the voting. Deputy Mayor Nelson, I assume you're the same.
Yes.
I would therefore call upon the most recent Deputy Mayor in the room, former Deputy Mayor Trin Nguyen, to come and take the hot seat and to work through the recommendation.
So we are discussing item 10.3. I'd just like to ask if anyone else would be interested in going. So we are endorsing Mayor Mark Larwood and also Deputy Mayor Nelson to be registered to attend. And we're also endorsing that Councillor Deputy Mayor Nelson will be the deputy voting delegate. So, do I have someone that would like to move the motion? Councillor Nguyen, would you like to speak to it?
Yes, I do. I attended last year for the first time, and it was an amazing experience. And just want to thank Farley for the support there. But it was a great opportunity to network with other people, and you got to hear like local issues and just the mingling in the room to listen and hear about what other councils were experiencing. So I strongly encourage, and I know that there's also we've got surplus fundings for other people that I strongly encourage them to go to this event, because it's such a great opportunity to hear what other councils go through.
Thank you, Councillor Nguyen. Do we have a seconder?
No, look, I think it's a great opportunity, and they're both very keen to attend, and I'm sure they'll gain a lot from it and impart a bit of that information onto us. So, yeah, support it.
Do we have any further discussion?
So, just one question. Is there an expectation that both will be on the 6 a.m. flight to Canberra on the Wednesday, so they're here for the council meeting? It's a bit disappointing with the council meeting on the same time, or it's a bit disappointing they put the alcohol conference at the same time as our council meeting. But either way, given it's the budget conversation and maybe some other things that's outlined by the CEO or by the report, my expectation is that both the Mayor and Deputy Mayor should be here for that.
Pass that on to the Secretary.
Through you, Madam Chair. Obviously a matter for them. My understanding is that certainly, at least in the case of the Mayor, his hope is to be on that flight on the Wednesday, but I can't speak for him. Nor can I speak for council.
Okay, my second question is there any way that meeting will be deferred or changed?
I think it was highlighted in the agenda. Change with restrictions.
I think it was difficult.
Yeah.
So, through you, Madam Chair, anything is theoretically possible with impacts, and I think the question of the degree to which those impacts exist may I suggest through you, Madam Chair, that would probably be a question best put to Councillors Nelson and the Mayor around their intentions or the ability for them to secure a morning flight on the Wednesday. My understanding is that neither wish to miss that meeting on the Tuesday evening beforehand. if there is a logistical challenge, we have time potentially to pivot. It wouldn't be easy.
Would that change anyone else's mind as well if we change the date so that you could attend the meeting and also? If we change the meeting date to a later date so that you could attend ALGA, would anyone else be interested in going?
Yeah, thank you for doing such a wonderful job of chairing. It's lovely to see you, Ms. Regan. Just in regards to these things, we always have to demonstrate value to the ratepayer, and it would be really good to give both the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor an opportunity to discuss in some detail what they've picked up. I can do that informally, but I think it's really good to either do it as elected member reports, because quite often these things happen and then we don't disseminate that information back to other elected members. So even a circular, and so I'm sure that will be noted. But yeah, they are very valuable. I've attended them before, and certainly to be able to copy, paste and save money by stealing other people's good ideas is always good value for the City of Prospect.
Yes, it's my understanding that it's council that you're when you attend these things. That's my understanding. And the other thing is that I think it would be good to see what plans both the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor have to lobby on our behalf when they're there in Canberra. I know that has happened before, so I think that's also an important opportunity.
I got the opportunity though 2 years ago, and I also agree it was a great opportunity, and I can listen to speaking and see what other councils are doing. Is there any further discussion? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour?
Someone would like to go, now's a chance.
Okay, item 10.4, appointment of independent council assessment panel members, recommendations on page 9. Do I have a mover? Deputy Mayor Nelson would like to speak to the motion.
Happy to move, probably makes sense. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge that we had a very strong field of candidates. On the panel was Mayor Larwood, Councillor Hollett and myself, along with the manager of, what's your title, Scott?
Assessment manager.
Sure, assessment manager would be fine. And we interviewed some outstanding applicants. The working party gave careful consideration. I think there was things that we considered both in stability with the panel and renewal where appropriate. It was important that we retained experience as well as continuity, while also bringing in fresh perspectives and skills. Such that we assess candidates on their technical capabilities, their governance understandings, and their approach in basic decision making. Following that process, I'm confident that we've landed on a very strong outcome. Please support the appointment or the reappointment of Rob Giggetti. Rob's so far spent 6 years on the panel and has done an outstanding job. Daniel Jellings. Daniel's been the deputy member for about a year and has been doing very, very well. And a new member, David Brown, supporting as the deputy member. Also, as per the report, a very sincere thanks to Will Gormley for his valued efforts and contribution over the last few years. These appointments ensure Council continues to have a very highly capable, balanced and professional assessment panel. And for those reasons, I support the motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Nelson. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Holland.
I support this one too. I think Mr. David Brown has a lot that he could bring to our council. He's originally from Cumberland, a lot of similarities there. He's got a good background. I think we have a really good skill mix here now, and moving up Rob Giggetti and Daniel Jennings has got a good idea, and it's I think a good thing to acknowledge Mr. Gormley and his contributions. He's had quite a long period with us and is of great value, so I think acknowledging that is important. So I support this.
Thank you. Any further questions, any points that haven't been raised? I'll ask Councillor Nelson to provide us with another succinct summary.
I will make this one very quick, and I did forget in my first opening remarks to sincerely thank the assessment manager who worked tirelessly on getting these interviews done. I asked him to do a skills matrix, which he sort of put together very quickly, and some assessments on some of the members. So the assessment manager did an amazing job in getting these things together, lining up all the interviews and getting everything done. So thank you very much for your support as well, Scott. Well done.
Well said, Deputy Mayor Nelson. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour, against, carried unanimously. Item 10.5, appointment of independent members to the Audit and Risk Committee. Recommendations on page 93. Looking for a mover. Deputy Mayor Nelson.
That was amazing. You said my name before I put my hand up. Yes, again, I sat on this panel as the meeting was unavailable. Received a very strong response to the expression of interest. Had, I think it was almost a record 77 applications. From that field, put forward 4 highly qualified candidates, and they were both shortlisted and interviewed by myself and the Director of Corporate. I'd like to acknowledge that we did interview some outstanding candidates, and it was not a straightforward process. In fact, the final 2 were very highly debated. Barry and I spent probably a good hour debating the final 2. But in considering the appointment, we place a strong emphasis on continuity, stability and deep organisational knowledge, particularly given the important role of the Audit and Risk Committee. Clearly, this committee plays a critical role in financial oversight, governance and risk management, so experience and familiarity were what we considered highly valuable. Now, on that basis, we were pleased to support the reappointment of Peter Scargill. Peter brings strong expertise and already has a deep understanding of the Council's financial risk environment, and obviously is the current chair of the committee. His continued involvement ensures consistency and stability with the committee while maintaining a high level of capability. So for those reasons, I support the recommendation to reappoint Mr. Scarborough for a further 3-year term.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Stanley, want to speak to the motion? Is there any further discussion? Councillor Craig.
Yeah, surprise. So I will support the motion, no issues at all with the decision. I did have a process question though. I found it interesting when they had 2 members of the interview panel, and I just want to understand how the panel was constructed, because I couldn't see a reference in here to the council making that suggestion as we did for the other position, and whether we have a policy that covers such things such as panels. So we had a gender mix, which is great. We had 1 staff member, 1 elected member, which is great. But normally panels would have a minimum of 3. So I'm just curious as to how we got down to 2. Is that not reflecting the decision, or it's more just reflecting the process of getting panel?
So I was unavailable to attend the interviews. So I don't think there is a terms of reference for the interview process that says we need to top up, unless we should have. I suspect that we. Well, let me ask that to the CEO. What's your view on the fact that there were only 2 members on the interview panel?
Well, Mr. Mayor, through you, obviously the appointment is ultimately made by council, and I think the question you're asking is more around your confidence in the reporting.
No, I made that very clear. It wasn't about the confidence of the decision. It was about the process, excuse me, to get that panel collated, and then whether we have a policy that governs panels for positions like this, or whether council made a decision. There's no reference to a council decision creating this panel. I'm sure we did, I just can't recall it. The other paper did mention it, but this one has not.
There was a council decision to convene the panel. I believe it was in January, February. Ms. Medro, Ms. Taylor, if either of you can recall. It was in January. And my understanding is it appointed Councillor Nelson, Mayor, and Farley's.
Okay, so I'll ask my question again. Is there a policy that reflects panels for these sort of positions beyond the council decision?
CEO.
I believe there is. Ms. Medro, Ms. Taylor, can you confirm? You may need to take that on notice.
I'm just having through the chair. I'm just having a continuous reference.
I thought there was 2, but it might be that I'm thinking of our internal processes.
I know it's a bit tricky and a bit different between internal processes and final council decision. And just to fill the silence, I just want to reiterate this is not a reflection on the appointment, it's not a reflection on Councillor Nelson or Ms. Taylor's ability to run a panel. It's just more if we have a process that's 3 and 1 can't make it. Normally you would say, hey, we're going to get 3rd person for this. So it's just, and there was none of that explanation in here. So history will show that there was no 2.
I guess there would, if there's a requirement to have that many, then there would be a deputy naturally appointed to fill a spot on the panel.
Maybe that's a good process for the future. I was more curious whether our policy covered this sort of matter or not.
Can we take that one on notice?
Happy to take that on notice, yeah. As I said, I'll support the motion, I support the decision. There's just to say it for the 15th time, there's no issues with that. I'm just always looking at our process, and particularly for an audit and risk committee, you want to make sure the process is monitored.
All right, so we'll take that on notice and the CEO will provide details there. Any further discussion? If not, I'll head back to Councillor Nelson for another excellent summary.
Summed up.
Okay, let's put that to the vote. All those in favour, against, carried unanimously with an action on staff. Okay, we're now up to item 11 on the agenda, reports for information. Information reports can be resolved en bloc. However, there is only one report for information, which is the Mirror Monthly Report. Noting that I didn't attend the debate at the last minute, I believe Farley went along in my stead. Also, I think in there that Councillor Nelson and I met with Kieran Snape in the reporting period. Fairly sure. Sorry?
February. That
was February, okay. In that case, there was only that just one adjustment, so if we can just note that I didn't attend the great debate due to work commitments, but Farley went along in my stead. That being the case, I'm happy to move it. Is there a seconder? Happy to take questions as well. Councillor Barnett, happy to second. Any questions or any further discussion points people would like to raise? I do not.
So I was trying to find the debate, I couldn't find it. I'm saying.
Got it, yeah. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Item 12.1, council member reports and or briefings. Thank you to Deputy Mayor Jason Nelson, Councillor Christina Barnett and Councillor Alison Rebecca for your reports. Item 12.2, motions on notice. I might seek leave of the meeting to bring forward 12.2.4, 12.2.5 to the top of this list, which relate to the PLP. If there's some people who are here in order to hear the outcome of these discussions, then they might appreciate, of course, always welcome to stay to the end of the meeting, but this may be what you're here for. So I'll seek leave of the meeting. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. So item 12.2.4, notice of motion, Prospect Lifestyle Precinct, timing roadmap and options, Councillor Mark Group, recommendations on page 103. Do I have a mover? Councillor Group, would you like to speak?
Sorry, was that a bit quick? I should wait for someone else.
Would you like to speak for less than 5 minutes about the motion?
I'd like to speak for 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll just get my trusty
I won't speak for 5 minutes because believe it or not, you might have heard some of what I'm going to say before. Okay. I would ask Mayor though if we can take this one apart.
Have a second. Thank
you. In the good old days, we used to read these out. I'm not going to do that. You've all read it and you will have your own views on it. But as we know, we are dealing with one of probably the most significant, if not the most significant project we have ever done in the City of Prospect. That's in terms of cost, in terms of scale, and importantly in terms of long-term impact for our community. So this is about making sure that as we move forward, we're doing it with great clarity, great transparency, and what I will be arguing, and have been arguing, is good governance. What's been increasingly clear to me over the last little while is that we've reached a level of complexity and consequence where I think we need a really clear understanding and shared understanding of what happens next, when decisions are actually made, and what options are genuinely still retained. We received a petition tonight of 2,200 signatures. I suspect it's one of the largest ones we've ever seen, if not the largest one, certainly even more. And it's raised concerns about the size and scale of the project, which we know was not included as part of our Phase 3 consultation. So whether elected members agree with the position of the PLP or not, I think we can all agree that it reflects a level of community interest, and I think it's community concern that warrants us being very clear about our pathway forward. The motion is deliberately practical and asks for a couple of things. The first is that we recognise that decision points made prior to caretaker will commit a future council to this project. So we are forward committing a future council to this project in some way. It's also asking for us to consider that any decision we do and that we make before the election doesn't materially limit development and land use options and doesn't unreasonably constrain a future council. And I know in the CEO comments he's made reference to some of that definition a bit. I'll leave it to you to define what you think is material and what you think is unreasonable. And the third one is that we note that any future process, we should be providing some choice to community. We've heard that from community, and I think it's something that we should be looking at. So rather than talking about outcome, let's also talk about choices. I won't harp on much more, because you do know my view, but I want to provide elected members that opportunity to think about the decisions that we are making right now and the decisions we make between now and caretaker, which is only a few months away, and for the potential for this to be binding on a future council. Remembering, of course, unless something has happened today, we don't yet have ministerial approval for land application. So just as we didn't, and we haven't been constrained by major decisions by the previous council, we have a duty to provide the future council with options on how to take this generational project forward. I'd suggest respectfully that this is something that we should all be able to support, this motion. I don't suspect I'll get support from all at the table, but I would hope I may get some. Regardless of where you sit on the PLP, If you support it, this gives you some confidence in its delivery, and if you have concerns, it gives you assurance that risks and options are being properly understood. I look forward to the debate, and I look forward to the 5 minutes this summer.
Thank you, Councillor Greg. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Becker.
I'll second it. Look, thank you, very well articulated, and I won't speak too much further, but irrespective of where you sit on the views, it's the weight of the decision. It is very complex, and there's no rush. It's our timeline. And I know there's members around the table that are eager to get things done, and equally with me, I'm eager to see things done, and we've seen support from the community to get things done, which I think is really reassuring. But I know we've heard members that want to get stuff done. I want to get great done, and to get great done takes time. And I think to buy a little bit more time and a little bit more thought, irrespective of your thoughts of the way the development's going to go, I'd encourage you to support this motion and consider the weight of your decisions for the next council.
Thank you, Councillor Becker. I might just leave from the chair briefly, and I may or may not have to cast a deciding vote on this, and I'll make my mind up as to how I might cast that vote upon hearing the passionate views around the table. I just wanted to spend a minute talking about part 2 of this very well constructed motion, and I reflect on the point made that no decision, essentially saying that there shouldn't be a decision made by this council that commits a future council to anything. Because that's the essence of what I'm getting out of it. And
point of order, Mayor, sorry. Point of order is that that's not what it says. It talks about materially limiting future design, and it's talking about reasonably constraining the discretion of the incoming council. So it's an carte blanche.
Okay, I accept that. Looking back at history and relating to the building that we're sitting in tonight, I asked for a little bit of research, and in February 2018, Council endorsed the sale of the depot site of Main North Road. Now, for those of you who were around when we were going through this process, which started way back in 2015, I acknowledge this is not of the scale of the PLP. I was going to say PLP project, but I don't need to say that second one. However, at the time, it was of considerable concern to the community because it involved decisions around the sale of the depot, which had been the tram barn and been in use by the council as a place to park trucks for many years, but it was owned by the council. And then we had the council building, which was on this site here, and we'd been booted out of the library facility at the primary school by DECD in 2015. So there's a lot that was going on at that time, and there's a lot that went into this decision-making process. And there was a lot of community concern around the library should go at the depot. We shouldn't be selling land. We shouldn't sell this land and split it in half and use the proceeds to fund the building of this building without having to impact ratepayers as much as we did. So all those things were similar, of a less scale, I acknowledge, than the project we're currently looking at. But there was significant decisions made as late as the 13th of February 2018 in an election year, only a few months away from going into caretaker. So there is evidence that that's how councils work, that good councils make good decisions for the future. And I once again acknowledge that it's not at the scale of the project we're looking at the moment, but this has been done before, and these decisions were made by people sitting around this table. So I just wanted to make that point with regards to part 2 of this motion. Any further discussions, Councillor Holler?
Yeah, look, I've heard both sort of views here, the last 2 views, 3, and look, I keep hearing we're in a hurry or there's no hurry. I just want to sort of, my side of the argument, I just want people to understand what a roadmap is, and I'll just sort of read this out. A roadmap is a critical part of a structured and strategic project, particularly one of this scale. It is not optional or an idea that we came up with. It gives direction, clarity, and minimises risk. It's considered an important framework. My concerns with this motion are the impacts a pause would create. I believe these could be significant. New members would need to be taught years of specifics and history as well as the legal processes. It's a whole new intensive learning exercise. All this at a time they are grappling to learn a new role. What's required of them, council's legal processes, and so on. There's so much, you know, a new person coming into council just needs to pick up, let alone start making major decisions, even with, you know, being briefed on all this past history. Key consultants and professionals would have moved to other projects. The assembled team would dissipate fast. A restart would require extensive coordination with the potential loss of key individuals who take with them vast knowledge related to the project. Then there is the financial cost, calculated to be around $900,000 for a pause to restart. Pausing and restarting would be viewed as a major red flag. It would signal uncertainty, poor planning, council fracturing, as well as ongoing and future risk. It degrades the strong position council currently has in regards to negotiation and securing the best outcomes. A pause during an EOI period where you have built momentum and trying to build up credibility is simply not a good idea, in my opinion. Reputational damage is very real, and relaunching would be difficult and likely cause further stalling, regardless of whether council goes back on track or in another direction. Councillor Group makes no mention of any of this, and I feel he's actually minimised this to a great extent. These risks are not minor and need to be taken into consideration.
Councillor Hollett. Any further discussion? Any points that Councillor? Oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor. Yes.
Yeah, we'll have a chat.
It's not a chat.
It's not a chat?
No.
I thought we had a
debate. No,
you asked me a question before. I'm about to answer it. So, look, I mean, this motion in simple terms delays the project. We all know what was behind it, which obviously risks stopping with the momentum and will likely damage council's reputation with the development market. I think that goes without saying. We've seen this done before. It hasn't worked. Kicking this project down the road for the next council doesn't solve the problems that we're elected to solve. Simple as that. So I hold here for everyone to see, and I'm happy to share these. This is the master plan from 2009. Council endorsed $13 million, and Council endorsed this on the 8th of June 2010. So a very nice master plan, awesome work done. I was going to take the pen out and throw it up in the air, but then I was told I had to clean it up, so I'll just do that. Gone because of failed funding. Right? Couldn't find funding, gone. This master plan here, this one's actually referred to a, what's this one? Prospect Oval Venue Improvement Plan from 2016. Now, this was formulated by North Adelaide Football Club, Prospect District Cricket Club in conjunction with Council. This one was valued at $20 million, but failed due to no funding. Again, gone. In 2020, Council decided to revisit the 2016 master plan, 2016 Venue Improvement Plan, and that plan was then unanimously endorsed on the 28th of July 2020. But after that, no further action was taken. Dead, gone. So this is why I say 3 failed attempts of what we're trying to achieve. Every time it's gone up from 13 million to 20 million, and to do everything we have to do, we're now looking at 60. If we do nothing now, or we stop things now, or the next council decides to do nothing, by 2030, 2035, we're looking at $100 million. It's got to stop. Now, the results of all 3 was the same. No funding options, no delivery, continued deterioration of our facilities, and increasing costs and rectification. The key difference now is that we finally have a funding pathway. For the first time, this is not just a vision, it's a plan that can actually be delivered. This motion introduces commercial uncertainty and reduces our ability to secure strong market outcomes. This motion signals to the market that decisions may be deferred or changed, which will weaken the market confidence and reduce value for our ratepayers. Our facilities are ageing. Our non-compliant, they're no longer fit for purpose. The community has already waited decades, and we can't continue to kick this can down the road as has been done for the last 16 years. We were elected to make informed legal decisions not to defer them to the next council. Every council makes decisions. If we only worked on our 4 years, nothing would get done. If a government only worked on their 4 years, nothing would get done. We have to make decisions for the future. Every council decision carries over terms, and if we only made decisions for our term, we'd never get anything done, as I just said. So if we continue to delay, we risk repeating the mistakes of 2009, 2016 and 2020. I do not want this master plan to become the 4th failed attempt. We now have a real opportunity to deliver, and our community deserves to see it realised. For those reasons, I won't be supporting this motion. However, now that Councillor Group has asked us to take it in parts, I have no issue in supporting point 1, recognising that we are making decisions and material decisions for a future council, which every council should be doing anyway to secure the futures. And also very happy to support point 3, because we do that anyway. We have to remember we had 4, if not 4.5 master plans that went to phase 2 consultation. We gave the public a choice and they chose the current master plan we're working on. So we've done everything by the public. We've been open with everything that we've done. So I'm happy to support part 1 and part 2, but I cannot support, sorry, let me rephrase that. Happy to support part 1 and part 3, but I cannot support part 2.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any further discussion points? I had Councillor Barnett and then Councillor Spain-Wynne.
Yes. What came into my mind when I was reading this in preparation and now again is that I think there's a difference here between doing what is the popular thing, which is now becoming more evident, than doing the responsible leadership thing. So not everything that we do on council, as we know, and I've been all years and I tend to, but, you don't necessarily do what is the popular thing. You have to do the thing that is right for the whole of the community. We have to do the thing that won't be another failed thing. You have to do the thing that doesn't make a higher risk in about this. And the members here, especially tonight, it's all very well to hoo-hoo and sort of clap and rah-rah, but this is a deadly serious thing. And I know you think it's a deadly serious thing too, but we have had to do all the proper due diligence. How many community workshops have we sat through? I haven't had the time to count them up. Listening to all the experts in that. You all had the opportunity to come along to most of all of those workshops. I think there may have been one that was perhaps at a confident matter in confidence. So, I just think you've got to weigh up what is the responsible thing to do as leaders, the strategic thing to do, not to waste, as some of the members of the public think, even more money. And I remember what it's like when you come in as a new member, and I've helped to mentor some that come on as new members. And even though you might, be a very responsible person in a very responsible job, it is certainly another kettle of fish to come in here fresh. You've got to, immediately get up to speed. The council staff and the local association are very good with all the training things. You have to do mandatory training in a whole lot of areas, including financial management. So that's how I feel.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. Councillor Twin.
I do not support the motion because we should not be steering away from the PLP roadmap. Council's role is to make strategic and ongoing decisions in the best interests of the city, and that responsibility does not stop simply because of an upcoming election. The next council will also have a duty to continue acting in the best interests of the city when their term begins, just as we are required to do now. At this point in time, I believe it is important that we continue to stand by the roadmap for the PLP project rather than creating delays or uncertainty. The project is already addressing some important issues at the site. The council needs to keep moving forward in a clear way. Putting limits on decisions now could weaken council's position and make the process harder going forward. For that reason, I stand strong with the PLP project and with the work currently underway. I believe we must act in the best interest of the city, not just for today, but for the future, just as future councils will do in their time. Good governance means continuing to make good sound decisions when they are needed, not stepping back from them.
Thank you, Councillor Nguyen. Any further discussion, Councillor Standard?
One of the interesting things about going last or nearly last is that most of it's all been said, and I agree with everything that's been said here tonight. And my feelings exactly. I will say this, there may be a time that we pause on this project, but I don't believe that it's this point. I think we've got another couple of steps where we may take a pause and take a breath and reassess and have a look and see what we're doing. The other thing too is if we pause now, we do not have an opportunity to take on board what the community has said to us. So I've heard the absolutely fantastic deputation this evening. It's one of the best deputations I've heard in a long, long time. And it brought the views of the community to us. If we stop now, we don't have a chance to actually just regroup and move slightly and take all those views on board. If we stop completely, we have an opportunity to take what they've said and maybe reimagine and bring that into what we move forward. If we pause now, we won't be able to do that. So unfortunately, I'm not going to support the motion at this point.
Thank you, Councillor Standard. If there's no further discussion, then I will head back to Councillor Greg for a stirring summary.
Thank you, Mayor. So a couple of things, I'll probably just respond to some of the comments that were made. The first thing, your comments, Mayor, around the sale of the depot site. I think you kind of contradicted your own argument, so thank you. I don't have to do that for you. It is a different scale, it is a different issue. And you have to remember the decision that was made on the 13th of February, which was consulted before that, in 2018, was the sale of the depot site, it wasn't the creation of this building. So it's a very different decision. And the decision to actually build this building here and to make the decision that we didn't need the Trambarn site anymore was made well before that. During that decision process, it was foreshadowed that whatever site we didn't have, we would sell. So it didn't come as a surprise to community. So I just want to point out it's a little cute to sort of use that as a comparator, but I think the context is very, very different. Councillor Holland talked about the roadmap definition. I think she said not an option that we came up with. Well, the roadmap is ours, and I guess that's the point that I made. Councillor Tobacco has also made time and time again. It is our roadmap. We're not asking not to do the PLP. We're asking to stop and pause and make it very, very clear about what it is that we want as part of this process. Councillor Holt also talked about years of new learning. Well, every elected member around this table, it doesn't matter whether you've been here for a minute or for 75 years, it just, not 35 years, 45 years.
36 years. Point of order, Councillor Green.
Sorry, 20 years.
A retraction, please.
I'll withdraw the comment. But it doesn't matter whether you've been here for a day, a minute, or a year. You have responsibility under the Act. So if you're not up to that responsibility, don't sit around this table, quite frankly, because having the excuse of I'm new isn't an excuse. And we have to remember that as elected members, and every new elected member sitting around this table made the decision to spend $8 million, myself included, on that property in our first year here. So I don't think you can use the excuse, we don't want to give the new council, we want to give them time to come up to speed with things when we didn't have that opportunity, and you make decisions that you need to. Councillor Holt also talked about pausing being a red flag. I see it differently. I see it, a pause is the council that's actually listening to its community. Councillor Holt, you said a lot. So Councillor also talked about securing the best outcomes. I'll question about who. And I haven't minimised the financial risk. In fact, I'm trying to save the financial risk. Because once we make a decision, prior to going into caretaker, the new council will need to take that decision and take it forward or risk a significant, we've heard this in previous meetings from the Director, a significant financial penalty, which is going to be well in excess of the money that we've already spent on this project. So I think it's, again, not quite technically accurate to say the bigger risk is to cause. Councillor Nelson talks about sign the process. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I've been talking about for some time, about us taking the time and making sure we do the right decisions at the right time. And I think you made the point, you've seen this happen before. And I don't know where, I can't ask you can't answer, but maybe that's a conversation for later. We weren't elected to do this project. No one took this project to the election to say, we want to do this major project. And I think that is the difference that I keep coming back to. Do we have the social licence to actually do this? The 3 failed attempts to the master plan, I totally reject that, because in 2006, and I will stand with correctly, ended up developing St Helens, not St Helens, Memorial Gardens, including the playground and other areas. The 2009, the middle one, was not driven by council, that was driven by the sporting clubs in a very difficult political environment. And the 2016 one, the CEO said was not endorsed, so I'm not sure where that truth was. No? I'm going to keep going because I'm going to run out of time, sorry. So I'm not suggesting kick the can down the road. I'm suggesting we have the control of the timing for this, and we also be very careful about what decisions we make prior to going to caretaker. Councillor Barnett talked about popular versus responsible. I agree with Councillor Barnett. It's not about popular, it's not about responsible. It's actually about doing the right thing. And my view is we're not doing the right thing. Yours is that we are. I accept we have different views on that. But I agree we should be doing the right thing.
Time's up.
And I'll just finish by saying, if the project is as strong as you all believe, as we all believe it is, then taking time to clearly articulate the roadmap and the options for development should only strengthen it, not weaken it.
Thank you. Now we will take it in parts. So, part 1, all those in favour? Carried unanimously.
I'll take that as a win.
Someone call a division, please.
I would if I could.
Part 2, all those in favour? Against?
Division.
Motion lost. All those who voted in favour should stand up.
It's again for change.
That's unusual.
That's it, isn't it?
You can join us, it's a division.
Yeah, you can change your mind.
You can change your minds.
If we can, that's right. No.
Close. No, it's opposite.
Good pick up in there.
Jeez, almost.
Once you press is okay, it's done.
Let's press on. Part 3, all those in favour? Against, carried unanimously. Item 12.2.5, notice of motion, Prospect Lifestyle Precinct Community Reference Group, terms of reference. Councillor Alison De Backer, recommendations on page 105. Councillor De Backer, I assume you are moving. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I would. I'm actually going to stand. Yeah, so this one is regards to process. So I love process because, it's written down and you can refer back to it. So I'm moving that we request that the Prospect Lifestyle Precinct Community Reference Group members be surveyed on the CRG process to date with thoughts, suggestions and feedback with regards to the established CRG group terms of reference, and request that a report comes back to Council with the outcomes of the survey prior to any binding final decision on the PLP project. And this is to ensure that the CRG has been working as per the intended terms of reference. And this came about because I found out after the fact that there was actually a CRG meeting, I think it was last month. I had 2nd of March. Now, throughout the last couple of years, when there's one on, elected members were notified and I'd be able to attend in the gallery, and I think it's a really good way of hearing what the community has to say with different kind of views, and you actually sort of get to hear how the community is hearing that information. That wasn't communicated ahead of the 2nd of March, and you have to remember we started this community reference group, the purpose of which was for the to be an advisory group to Council, to provide a forum for meaningful dialogue, feedback and input from a diverse community stakeholders and members to achieve the vision and objectives for the precinct. So it's a really, really important group, and it's being funded by ratepayers. So we've got consultants on that panel, we've got our directors on that panel, we've actually got a couple of elected members on this panel. Now, at the most recent one, I think it was on the 2nd of March, so in attendance, Councillor Nelson, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And apologies, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I looked back through the minutes of some of our other meetings and I found another one with quite poor attendance. And also in the minutes as well, we seem to be getting a lot of the administration presenting, but we're not really hearing a lot from the people on the panel. Now, that might just be my misunderstanding because I sit in the gallery just like any other member of the public and I've only got the minutes to go from. And I certainly haven't seen any substantial references to what the community reference group has said. They came to a consensus of, or there was 2 different views of from the community reference group. It hasn't actually been outlined in some of the engagement reports. So irrespective of people's views, this is supposed to be our, if you look at the matrix, and I did have this somewhere, there was a matrix that the consultant had put together and it was endorsed, and it was in regards to the importance of those views, and of course I can't find it now, but here we are. So the community reference matrix, and I'm sure it's changed, but basically the community reference group is up here, so it should be influence and power and interest. So they're right up there with council. And so if it's that important, why aren't we getting attendance at these meetings and why haven't we had a review? So I'm understanding that basically there is a survey going out to people who have participated in the most recent engagement. This is generally because it's IAP2 or IPA2 or something. But with the reference group, I think it's such an important body and part of this process. If it's not working, we need to find out why. And I know the CEO...
Councillor, 1 minute.
Yep. In regards to a review, the terms of reference looked at a review at the end of 2025. Has that been done yet of the community reference group?
CEO,
As per the terms of reference?
Through Mr. Mayor, my understanding is that having regard to the fact that the terms of reference themselves have been extended due to the fact that the roadmap itself has been extended, that the review has been delayed. Yes, can you speak to that though? I could be getting that wrong. That was a recollection of a discussion we had some time ago.
Through the Mayor, I'm unsure of the question.
So the question is, the terms of reference for the CRG appeal we anticipated a review of the group at the end of 2025. That's what the council is asserting. My understanding is, from memory, there is something like that in the terms of reference, but I don't.
Okay, so through the Mayor, what the terms of reference actually state is that they did have a finish line of the 31st of December 25, but could extend at the discretion of the project if anyone required. So hence that's why the new the advice went out about the new meetings to happen, and we've tried to embed some flexibility in the background on those meetings, which led to that demonstration issue with the last date not being on the website, which will be rectified moving forward. But given that, we have just recently established the next couple of meetings some suitable dates, which all members and including elected members will be advised of those very shortly.
Done? Great, thank you. So I have a seconder for this motion. Councillor Greg.
There's not much left to be said, to be honest with you. I think it's a debate. Thank her for the motion, and I think she's covered off my thinking very similarly. I think the concept of having the survey is actually would be quite useful. I'm on the committee. I have engaged well with it. I did, to Councillor DeBacker's point, feel it was more an information exchange than it was a discussion about concepts. That's just a personal view, so I really enjoy participating in that survey result as well, not to be negative, but to just reflect my views. I have had conversations with some other members informally, and they have different views about the usefulness or otherwise of the group, and I think that may affect some of the attendance issues that have been happening. So I think it's a useful thing to do. I think it's a great motion.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, I'll head back to Councillor Backer to sum up.
I just encourage you to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Backer. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried.
Division.
Just going to be different. Don't have to stand up.
You know, if it's unanimous, you don't have to stand.
No.
Okay, so now we go back in time to 12.2.1. Notice of motion in support of LGA advocacy parking laws, brought to us by Councillor Christina Barrett. Net recommendations on page 98. I take it, Councillor Bennett, that you would like to move and speak briefly to the motion.
Yes, thank you. I like to do the motion, and in so doing, South Australian councils voted in favour of increasing garage sizes in new homes at the Local Government Association's annual general meeting last year. Subsequently, this has come up yet again in the media, and so I thought it would be excellent if we could just reconfirm. I believe that we were one of the councils that voted in favour. I can't remember off the top of my head now, but for example, West Ward, and I'm sure other wards will relate to this, has a considerable number of narrow streets, as do other areas in the city of Prospect. Our city share similar problems with our suburbs, with narrow streets that originated as pedestrian, cart and horse lanes, etc. SUVs and light commercial vehicles now account for about 80% of new car sales, while passenger cars have fallen to about 14%. And popular models, I'm not picking on any models, this is, just what the research finds. Popular models like the Toyota RAV4 have increased by nearly 90 centimetres in length and 16 centimetres wide since the 1990s. And dual cab vehicles such as Ford Ranger now exceed 5.3 metres in length. So this motion is actually aimed at supporting owners of caravans, boats, trailers, as well as large utes, SUVs, or with drives. Larger vehicles have soared in popularity, as you've seen in recent years, particularly with tax perks and instant asset write-off introduced. The Minister of Infrastructure and Transport told us previously the councils can solve this problem with time parking. We in fact got a letter from that minister. This merely shifts the problem to other streets and costs council money in extra signage and painting lines on roads. Our streets are meant for moving traffic around safely, mainly, not as storage areas for larger vehicles such as caravans, boats and trailers being stored indefinitely on suburbs. And as a result, these long vehicles can reduce street visibility, block driveways, take up scarce parking spaces, often for days, weeks and months at a time. Not only is this frustrating for residents and visitors, but it also hinders traffic because police tracks, emergency service vehicles that need access to properties, creating potential safety risks. And this is what I'm hearing and reading in various social media, from ones that are in our particular area. Under current Australian road rules, vehicles smaller than 7.5 metres in length or weighing less than 4.5 tonnes gross mass can remain parked on the streets for as long as they wish, provided they're registered. And because many caravans, boats and trailers fall under the size limits, councils have little or no effective regulatory powers, so they can use to remove or relocate despite growing requests from the public to do so. Under the current Australian road rules, there's limited recourse available to councils unless a specific breach occurs. For example, AR regulation.
Councillor, 1 minute to go.
So, moving on. So, the LJ position in now this motion is a pro-community support position that supports the delivery of appropriately designed housing by ensuring new homes are built fit for purpose to accommodate modern and large vehicles and help get them off the street. We've got examples along Devonport Terrace with apartments built with garages that cannot fit the modern vehicles. They have to park them out in the driveway. The fact is that our planning laws have not kept pace with modern community lifestyle, particularly in old suburbs such as Prospect Council area. So let us help the owners of these vehicles and our community with relevant laws that reflect modern living. Just as modern living and house designs have changed to incorporate people want their cinemas, people want their other lifestyle aspirations.
Thank you, Councillor.
So support is yet again.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. Do I have a seconder to this motion? Councillor Trindwin would like to speak briefly to the motion. Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Hollett, Tobacco, and then Groot. I'll suggest briefly if we may.
You know, I noticed in 1A, there's it just really covers caravans, boats, and trailers, but a lot of the time the problem's actually vans or trucks. I think they're more frequent. I don't know. I haven't heard too many complaints about or known people to leave their boats on a road. They generally own a home that they can store a boat away. So I think it's, you know, including certain size trucks or, you know, vans. I mean, we had the problem with the food van here that was moving around Prospect for about 4 or 5 years. I mean, that wouldn't come under any, you wouldn't be asking for that to be considered, whereas I think that's where a lot of the gripe comes from, when you've got a large truck or vehicle that obstructs views. It's, you know, it's got the width. Yeah, is it possible to include that, or do you?
You could have put forward a variation, Councillor.
Yes, what would you describe it? You know, a vehicle, a truck or a van that exceeds.
Commercial vehicles.
Commercial? Yeah.
It's a
trailer.
My use commercial vehicle.
Is it a shame to actually have something come through and it's...
Sorry, can I just, Councillor Hollis, the floor for 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think perhaps large commercial vehicle. So by large, I don't know how they would, how you determine what large is, but I mean, you can get a small commercial vehicle too, can't you? I don't know. Any suggestions on how I could, what you could call that? Truck, or you could put truck in as well.
Councillor Standard is going to say that he calls his ute his truck, so with
it's commercially
stuff
registered
there as well.
Yeah.
Look, I think that you can put forward a variation, and then I'll put that to the mover and the seconder. However, the three that are pulled out here, caravans, boats and trailers, are quite specific, whereas a truck or a commercial vehicle, I don't think we want to get into that level of detail.
I mean, I did check. I mean, it's if it's left there indefinitely, so not one that moves around. I mean, people have got their businesses and they park out. So this would be one that is just. Are we?
So you're entitled, if you get onto it quickly, to put forward a variation to the motion. Would you like to put forward a variation to the motion?
Well, can I just have it clarified? When it says indefinitely, does that mean park there? Does Councillor Barnett mean it's parked there and left there and not driven?
I think the sentiment there is more than just for a day or half a day or thereabouts, on an ongoing basis. But
Oh, so not left there, which is so not like parked there like a food van and it just stays there for a year.
that would be the definition.
That's what the definition is in that.
That would be the way that I would interpret the word indefinite.
Yeah. So large commercial vehicle, yeah.
So you would like to put forward a variation
Yeah.
which adds the words trailers and large commercial vehicles. Is that what you're saying, Councillor Holland?
Yes.
So we've got some words on the screen. If you're happy with those words, Councillor, then what I'll do is I'll seek a straight yes or a no from the mover and the seconder. Councillor Barnett, are you a yes or a no?
Oh, yes.
Councillor Gwynn, are you a yes or a no? So we're now incorporating large commercial vehicles into the motion. And I think you're about done with your time as well, Councillor Holland.
Sorry?
You're about done with your 5 minutes as well. I think I saw a couple more hands. So we had Councillor Backer and then Councillor Green.
Yeah, look, I agree with the intent of the motion. However, it's a bit, not say reinventing the wheels. City of Charles Sturt in May 9, 2025, Councillor Peter Pires put forward a motion calling for tougher powers for local councils to deal with the issue of caravans. So obviously, I think the local government association and state government is aware of the situation, and it's great that we're supporting it. But a bit like the schools issue, it just shows you need a forum and people around the table to say, look, here's the issue, here's the possible solution. We've got the half unused Islington workshops just up the road. Is there a way we could monetise local storage for caravan owners and trailers to be at an upgraded facility that might help pay for the upgrade in times in the future? But it is, a lot of people have large caravans and trailers, but I think if it's not a business model, it has to be a council solution, unfortunately. And again, it's always cost shifting. But though this is great, I think taking it a bit like what the Mayor has done with the schools to a forum between councils is an effective way to sort of get stuff done as council. Definitely. So I will support it, but I maybe don't think it goes far enough.
Thank you, Councillor Backer. Councillor Breach, and then Councillor Stanner, then Deputy Mayor. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Who would have thunk it?
So I came in tonight thinking, it's a reasonable motion, I'll support it, it kind of makes sense. But the joy of listening to other people is you need more to consider. And so rereading, I wish more would do that.
Yes. Same here.
Rereading it, I think what we've done is probably confused it more, to be honest with you. There's some flawed logic in this. So first of all, for me, caravans, boats, trailers and large commercial vehicles. We know what a caravan is, but there are rules about caravans on particular sites. Boats, I agree with Councillor Holland, that boats are generally left on the streets. Trailers, I know there is a non city hospital regularly in the street. And large commercial vehicles, will define large and define commercial. Is it B-double trucks or is it not huge? That Councillor Stanley too. I don't know. So I just think you could literally drive a truck through some definitions. So I'm a bit concerned. The word indefinitely, actually the definition of the word indefinitely means for a time period that's not known. So when I park mine, when Councillor Stanley parks his ute out in front of his house, he's parking it there indefinitely because he doesn't know when he's going to move it. So I think definitionally, indefinitely is difficult because it's not saying over a particular time. So I think, and this is the problem when we bring these motions up and there's not been a real discussion around it. The second point I was going to make, which is around point B, is that again, there's a logic issue for me to say that if we legislate minimum off-street parking design requirements for new homes, during the build big enough to accommodate larger vehicles, that does not mean larger vehicles will be parked in those garages. It means there could be better storage, a bigger gym, a bigger playroom for the kids. So I think we're trying to deal with a policy issue, but not in the right way necessarily. Now, look, at the end of the day, all we're doing is saying we provide so balance, unless others would say otherwise, I'll probably support it. But I think it's poorly worded in the sense that it's just too much of a rule in it. And I think by adding commercial vehicles, we need a definition of commercial vehicles as well. So my last comment is, what problem are we trying to solve with this? So I live in a street where there is a caravan parked in the street. Sorry?
Yours?
No, not mine. Mine's too big on the road. And streets near me, I occasionally see someone's caravan at the front. They might be planning to go for a trip. I have no issue with it. Some streets can take. Some streets are lovely and wide, and having 3 caravans side by side with left is probably not an issue. So again, there's just not enough detail on this, but we are just advocating on this issue. So looking forward to hearing what colleagues on the right are going to say. But I just think it could have been worded tighter to actually get the policy intent. Probably going to feel like that.
Thank you, Councillor Group. Councillor Stanton.
I support the intent, and if we're just writing a letter to support the LGA, that seems that we're not actually writing the policy, that's fine. It's interesting that we had a deputy come and show us a wonderful PowerPoint display this evening, and she was complaining about a vehicle that was left for 15 months, if I remember rightly, on the street, and it was neither a caravan, a boat, a trailer, a large commercial vehicle, it was a car. And that caused her more trouble than any of those because of just because it was in the street in the wrong place. And this doesn't actually capture the one thing that we got complaints from. It's a lot like when they tried to, at one stage, they tried to ban four-wheel drives into the city, and no one could actually define what a four-wheel drive was. Either the size of the bull bar, or how many driven wheels, or how many gearboxes, whether low range or high range. Eventually they gave up because they couldn't actually define what they wanted to try and prevent. If this is just a letter of support, then have at it. But if we're actually trying to provide policy, I think we're a long way from doing that.
It's a letter of support. Deputy Mayor Nelson, perfect.
Yeah, I think it's lacklustre in its form, I think. Weird question, if we take it in parts, does that include just part 1, or do we do A and B separately? No. It's just one part.
Take it in parts.
The biggest issue I have with this, I was involved, mid last year I was involved in a 2-day workshop with the master builders regarding the redesign of houses to get cars off the street. And the results of that workshop was the reason the Premier removed the bill from Parliament, because it just can't be done. So that's why I was going to ask taking part 2. I can't support part B, but as others have said, if it's just a letter of support, then it's just a letter of support. So it's not really putting us to anything, but yeah, it lacks content, it lacks the ability to do anything. So
letter of support.
Letter of support.
Unless there's any further discussion, I will move back to the move of Councillor Bennett for a summary.
Yes, or maybe I should have put all the LGA information and changes about it in there, and that's on me, isn't it? But anyway, it is simply writing a letter, sharing our endorsement. I think we should be trying to do everything that we can, and this actually came out, say it now, as a South Australian Labor Party policy as well that they're supporting. So hopefully we might get some traction on that now. And I think this is not just the LGA, are there for all the other 67 councils, not only just ours. So you can imagine in ones that are out, you know, where there are sort of the large commercial, you know, a bit larger than what we have. I did try to help a group of residents with a caravan that was dilapidated, just left in the side street, and there was no way on earth, in heaven or hell, as one would think, there was no legislation, it could just be left there, and that's it. There was no way, and the Minister of Transport plan, and I've got whatever the minister is now, I'm getting tired, just said, oh, well, we as a council, at our expense, can slap up parking signs and put time frames on them. So what's happened? What happens, the caravan owner just moves it past the sign, all right, or around the corner. So I think we have got to do something to try and strengthen some of these laws. The law was changed. Before that, councils could have, most of them, the average one was you had 14 days and you could actually get them to move it, regardless of whether it was registered or, you know, whatever it was. We got that taken away from us as councils. I think it's about time we tried and get that sort of legislation reinstated. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. Let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Carried unanimously.
I'm sure we had enough debate on that.
Division.
I'm moving on. 12.2.2. I said it.
What we're here for.
Notice of motion. Shade sales over council playgrounds. Councillor Twee Nguyen, recommendations on page 100. Councillor Nguyen, I will hand over to you to move and speak to this motion.
Yes, thank you. I just want to thank the Director of City Works and Presentation for helping me put together this motion. This motion is really about making playgrounds safer and more comfortable for families across our city. Shade is not just a nice thing to have, especially in South Australia, where the sun can be very harmful. Many of us have heard from our local residents that more shade is needed over council playgrounds. A lot of families use the council playgrounds regularly, and without enough shade, children can end up spending too much time in the heat. In my opinion, this is a fair and practical motion because it's not asking council to put shade sales over every playground straight away. It is simply asking staff to look at what is needed, what it would cost, and how it could be paid for. By obtaining this information first, council can make smart decisions and focus on playgrounds that are used most, have the least shade, and are likely to be used for many more years. It also makes sense because council already thinks about shade when building new playgrounds. This motion is just asking council to give the same attention to older playgrounds as well. Bringing the findings back to council in the April council meeting means everyone can clearly see what the needs are and what should happen next. I hope you can support the motion as it aims to help make our playgrounds across the city safer, cooler, and more welcoming to the whole community. I commend the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Nguyen. Do I have a seconder? It's dead tired then. I'll try that again. Councillor Nguyen, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Barnett.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention. I did a bit of research, and shade sales are a highly effective evidence-based method for preventing skin cancer by reducing UV radiation exposure in playgrounds by up to 75%. And it helps protect children from sunburn and skin damage that significantly increases skin cancer later in life. I put that down to having various skin cancer operations, most probably due to the old playgrounds that didn't have any shades when we were out playing. Anyway, so the key benefit of playground shade sale, there's the UV protection, reduced sunburn risk. It makes a safe outdoor activity and encourages our children to stay active outdoors during the warmer weather by keeping areas cooler and safe. And high-risk areas like Australia, we have the world's highest skin cancer rate, and these structures are critical in reducing risks for children who play outside, especially during peak UV times. They also can ensure that play equipment is kept cool to the touch, and they can increase the lifespan of play equipment against fading and cracking. So I thoroughly support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. Let's put that to the vote. All those.
Spoken to yet.
That wasn't sum up. That was just a comment.
Seconding.
That was seconding.
Oh, sorry, I was looking at the wrong page. I almost got that one past everybody, didn't I?
Not even close.
All right, let's start again. Is there any further discussion on this point? I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Councillor Becker.
Look, I think it's like we're rewinding on the short tweet has brought us to us before. And I guess I come back to this every year. I'm not running again, so it'll be a different council next year. Service levels. It comes back to service levels, and we really need to embed this at the beginning of every term. We've mentioned this as an add-on when things come to us, and it should just be done. And if I was bringing the motion, I would change it to shade over council amenities, because it's not just young people, it's people sitting at bus stops, it's people using, picnic tables, it's any of our facilities that we have, and shade sails are one method of shade, but we also have trees. And I'll draw people's attention to that eastern wing of the PLP, which is called open green space. There are no deep planting zones identified for replanting of large shade trees. So if anyone's watching the football on that eastern wing, yes, there might be some grass, but there hasn't been any shade demonstrated at this point in time. So I just thought I'd get that little one in there. But yes, I do agree in principle, but I think shade over council amenities where people are going to be sitting and staying is a must. And I think we need to relook at our service levels, and it'll probably be in the new term. But I'll support this motion, and thank you for bringing it.
Now, which order are we going?
I was next.
Yours next. Then you, and then over here.
Yeah, very quickly, thank you to Councillor Nguyen for bringing this. Councillor Tobacco is correct. We have discussed this before. I think I recall maybe 2 years ago we did actually change the policy for all new playgrounds must have shade sails. But that didn't address the existing ones. And of course, playgrounds like Stan Watson on Charles Street missed out. We've got other ones here on Braun that don't have any shade sails at all. So I don't think there's too many around, but certainly need to be addressed. We also clearly have a failed motion when we tried to work with the Lions Club to put a shade sail at Stan Watson. They couldn't get the funding for it. So we've had a number of issues there, and the one at Stan Watson I know at least can't be used in the middle of a hot summer's day. So I think this is a great motion, even if just to get a report up so we can understand what needs to be done in the next couple of years.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Stanton.
Yes, I wholeheartedly support this. I was quite amazed about 3 years ago in 2023 when my local down the street park was redeveloped and a nice big stainless steel slippery dip was put in, that on a good day you could send a child down there and get bones at the bottom. And I'm still amazed that we, in this day and age, we still make those stainless steel slip dips. I was quite reliably informed that most of the time there's some shade over the top from the trees, but quite often there's not. So whilst some of the parks might need a lot of shade, there might be just a couple of the parks that need a little bit over some of just some of the equipment pieces. So absolutely wholeheartedly support this, and I'm glad that it's going to be sort of a precinct or a citywide study where we can look at each individual park, and rather than just put big stuff in, maybe we could just do topical things in certain areas.
Thank you, Councillor Stanton. Now, I think I'm back down.
Just a quick one.
In the west.
Look, I support shade. I support this motion, but I think, and I don't see the kind of big trees planted that provide. I know they take years to grow, but large canopies. If we concentrate on putting those kinds of trees into our parks, we actually get shade not just over play equipment, but we have it around a playground as well. Just attracts families. They stay longer. Is there a reason? So this is a question. Why is there specific types of trees we look at? I've noticed a few of the trees are not trees that develop canopies. They're just, quite often they're Australian natives and they just haven't got those canopies like you get, say, in Europe. You get these big trees. I mean, they're parks. You don't have to worry so much about footpaths and, roads cracking or verges being damaged. So is there a reason we are not putting a bigger emphasis on tree shade? but the right type of trees that are specific for providing that shade?
I'll have a go at answering this one. So I think we acknowledge that for quite a while we didn't make the right decisions with the sorts of trees we've planted, but we've now, from memory, maybe in last term, the council spent a fair bit of time developing a better tree policy, identifying canopy and those types of things like that. And I suspect that that would be taken into account through the design work that's put into new parks that we build. For a start, whether there's a policy of retrofitting existing parks with better shade-providing trees, I don't think there necessarily is, but it possibly makes sense to. Well, I think that if we are rebuilding any existing park, then we would certainly take that sort of consideration into account.
Well, we've got Flora Terrace, where we have our big park there, and we've got huge trees there. I mean, it just attracts people, and you have shade. It's not just the play equipment; it's the park itself, and we should be looking at the park too. I mean, I'll support this, but I think it's something we should look at and pay specific attention to the type of tree we're planting.
Certainly agree. Okay, any further discussion? If not, all those points have been noted and well made. Let's now get back to Councillor Wynne to sum up.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for the discussion and hope this up. Just asking for a report, and so that we could just see, which parks and reserves need it more. I think at the end of the day, it's just, it's for the safety of our community, for the younger people who love spending outdoors. So I commend motion.
Thank you. Let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Item 12.2.3. Notice of motion, community reference group, creating safer school zones, put forward by myself. I will move it. So this is calling for the terms of reference for a group, so therefore the motion itself doesn't have a lot of detail, because that's the point of creating the terms of reference, and it will come back to council for consideration. This felt like a good idea at the time, and I think some of the discussions tonight have suggested that it is a good idea. We created, through a well-designed workshop, and thank you to the staff for bringing that together, some real momentum, and there's already been some good signals since the workshop that we will get some things happening, which is great. There's been some visits to schools by state candidates who are now elected in those positions, particularly Nailsworth, I note. It feels like it's the right thing to do to continue to bring the community along to help provide input, particularly those who are specifically already part of the process through being involved in that workshop. So that's all I'm going to say. I will now call for a second. Councillor Barnett.
Yes, just following up, it was a really good workshop, and involved so many people, and I think just about nearly everybody said, it was great to hear your point, moving on around the room and all of that. So I think it was very did the job that it was meant to do, and so I support the motion. I think continue the good work already started.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion? Any points that haven't been made? Councillor Stanley.
Fortunately, I was working that evening, the night of that particular workshop. Everything I heard about it was positive from every angle, and I wholeheartedly it's fantastic you can build on the foundation work that's being done there. Can only bring on wholeheartedly support this motion, everything that brings with it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, I don't see the need to sum up. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. The Okay, so we've done those ones. We're now up to 12.3. There are a number of questions with notice, and they are listed here. And I'll not read out the answers, but the questions have been outlined, and the answers will be included in the minutes. So 12.3.1, Prospect Lifestyle Precinct Community Reference Group meeting, Councillor Alice Rebecca. In fact, I'm not sure if I'm going to read out the question, but we have it here. I'm just reading out the title. So, answers been provided. 12.3.2, Harrington Public Rule put forward by Councillor Rebecca. Question and answers have been provided. 12.3.3, FOGO options for residents, Councillor Tweenawin. Question put forward and answers have been provided, and as I mentioned, that'll all be included in the minutes. We're now at 12.4, urgent motions without notice. I would like to put one forward, which is that we write letters of congratulations to the three member for Adelaide, Croydon and Enfield on the success in their recent state government election, which will be expanded upon. It will say we look forward to working closely with you to deliver great outcomes for the community. So, okay. Going back a step, a show of hands to accept the motion. All those in favour? Against? All right, I've already said the next bit. The reason I'm considering it as urgent is that I think that it's respectful to get that out soon, and it also means that we get that letter out, and then we can begin the process of starting to look for opportunities to work on projects that are of joint benefit. So I'm going to move it. Is there a seconder for this motion, Councillor Nelson?
I have a second. This, obviously, with between myself being the only councillor to deal with all three of those electorates, we're very lucky, I think. So, no, I think it's a great idea.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, I do not see the need to sum up. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Okay, so to preempt that we will probably be going past 10:30, I'd like to put forward a motion that we continue with the meeting until we have completed the items on the agenda. I'm going to move that motion, and I'm sure Gwen is going to type furiously in a minute. Whilst Gwen is doing that, is there a seconder? Councillor Nelson. Any discussion? If not, I don't see the need to sum up. And I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Division? Oh, as if. What a silly thing to consider. Councillor Nelson seconded. Late reports, there are none. We'll now move into confidential items 13. 13.1. Sale of land for recovery of unpaid rates. A recommendation to move into confidence. Do I have a mover? Councillor Barnett, Councillor Stanton, you're on the table seconding. All those in favour? We will now move into confidence. We'll turn the live stream off and confirm that it's off.